issues in the population at the moment is 19% for small business owners. It's about 34. I want my team to be the pebble. If I drop one pebble into the water, the ripples go out to their friends, their family, their loved one, their kids.
What do you get when a kid from a tiny Australian country town ends up managing culture clashes in Japanese hotel chains at just 18? Who has helped build a German tech startup before 30 and then reinvents HR for small businesses across Australia? Therese Ravell, founder of ImpactHR and a resource strategist with over 20 years of experience, shares her amazing story of perseverance and the valuable information she learnt along the way.
Therese, welcome to the Martian Logic podcast.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for taking the time to be with us. Okay, so you are the leader at ImpactHR, a HR consulting firm that you work with smaller companies between, let's just say 0 to 100.
That's correct, yeah.
With your main focus or your main clients seem to be around the 30 to 50, correct?
Yeah,
Employees?
that's right.
Great. In Australia, primarily in New South Wales, or is it national?
It's very broadly spread. We don't have any clients in Northern Territory at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very
Looking
interesting.
forward to that.
Okay. They seem to be doing very good in HR, we can assume. They don't need us.
They
So
don't
that's
need
good.
us yet.
Good to know. Okay. So talk to us about your career as a young girl. How did you end up in HR? What's this HR thing? How did you become an HR person?
It's not the most direct route. So I grew up in a very small country town called Narrabri. And
Is that New South Wales? Where is
it
that?
is upper New South Wales, very close to the Queensland border.
Okay, up north. Cool.
Yep. And I met a Japanese man and was interested in learning about Japanese culture. I was about 8 at the time. And so at the age of 18, I went to Japan as an exchange student. And you're going, how on earth is this connecting to a career in HR? But because of that year, I was invited back to Japan to work with a hotel chain. And I was the liaison between the Japanese management and the Australian, New Zealand, Canadian and English employees that went over to Japan.
Okay, a company, hotel chain, Japanese, head office in Japan, but they've got properties all over the world.
No, we were all in Japan, but you needed somebody who spoke Japanese because by that stage I did.
Sure.
And you understood what the European and the Australian and the New Zealand guests wanted.
But you did say, the guests. I thought you said employees or...
I was responsible for the team of Australian, Canadian, New Zealand and UK employees who took care of the international guests.
They are working in Japan, but they are Australian. I'm so sorry. Okay.
And so my job was making sure that we were at peace all the time. Because for the Japanese culture at that stage, there was a very direct, I say you do, don't ask questions. For most of the people that I was working with, they say we question, then we do, was the behaviour.
Sure.
So trying to make sure that things worked for both parties and that expectations were set appropriately for both parties became a huge part of my job.
I love that.
Wasn't
That
when
would have
I
been very
arrived.
interesting, yeah? How long did you do that job for?
So I was there for a year doing that role because that was the visa that I had. And then I moved on to another role in Japan. But it was such an interesting experience because, what they really had was me doing HR. I just didn't have that title. And so when I came back and I was really exploring, well, where to from here, because I had my Japanese language skills and I was doing...
So you're 19 or so at that time?
I was early 20s and I was studying a double degree, Japanese and HR, because I enjoyed what I was doing and I loved the challenge of different ways of looking at things.
Yeah.
Neither one right or wrong.
Yeah.
Just totally
Yeah.
approach to how we do things. Culturally appropriate for both sides.
Yeah.
Neither one right or wrong. But without finding a way to peace in the middle, it's going to be a very
As a
unpleasant
matter
year.
of fact, I would argue doing that for 12 months would help you, even if you were to come back, work in HR or management in Australia, only working with Australians, it would have opened your eyes and make you see the world differently in a positive way.
Oh, absolutely. And it was a huge part of why I was so successful when I went to Duty Free Shoppers. So my first real HR job in Australia was talent acquisition for Duty Free Shoppers. But Duty Free Shoppers at that stage had a huge Japanese clientele, huge Chinese clientele,
Sure.
and huge Korean
I
clientele.
can imagine that.
Think about this though from the early 1990s. We were still at a stage where companies actually ran cultural awareness training. We don't do that anymore,
I know.
but we did back then.
Interesting. I didn't
And
even
we
think about
had
it like that.
three cultures that had a lot of really difficult past to overcome. Japan had invaded both of those countries.
Yes.
Both of those countries did not appreciate at that stage of the cycles of different countries,
Mm.
that Japan was the dominant economy.
And it was. That was the fact at that time. Yeah, you're
The
right.
Japanese people who worked with us had a real sense of pride about how far their country had come in such a
Sure.
short period of time.
Sure. And that's intimidating to other people.
And that showed at times when they were interacting with other salespeople. So trying to keep those cultures.
So interesting. An average person would never have that level of awareness, the nuance that you have about that problem and the cultures. So fascinating.
Yeah. And, I look at it now and it takes a lot to ruffle my feathers, because every time there was an issue there, I totally understood this is not a personality thing. They're just looking at it through their own lens.
Mm. Mm.
There's nothing wrong with that lens. It's their own lens.
Yeah.
So how do we find that way in the middle?
Yeah.
How do we get people to appreciate a different point of view?
Mm. Mm. Absolutely brilliant. Okay, fast forward now. So just to speed this up, this part of the question a little bit. You finished your degree. You got your first job working for, for duty-free shops. For how many years? Let's say you did that for you.
So it was probably about 4 years there.
4 years, yeah.
Yeah.
And then from there, you stayed in the corporate world, or that's when you moved straight into this kind of stuff?
No, I stayed in the corporate world, but once again, my life is never straightforward. I was working in Japan and working in Germany and then working in America before I came back.
Oh, wow.
And so
what is that, 6,
my-
7 years span for those countries?
10 years.
10 years, yeah. HR?
HR. All the way
Small
through.
businesses or large corporates?
Variety.
Cool.
So from startup in Germany, there were 18 people.
As in
in
tech
it.
startup?
Tech startup.
Wow, back in those days, you're one of the
Yeah,
OGs.
I'm one of the OGs. Yep, that's me.
Yeah.
So pre 2000,
Mhm.
before the tech bubble burst,
Yep.
there were 18 of us in Germany, and we grew to about 180, I think it was.
Wow, so you worked with the founder clearly on all these difficult things as you're going from no policies, nothing, so much risk, as they're growing through. That is phenomenal. You would have learned so
And-
much from that.
In Germany. So,
What's different? Why is that? Because again, I wouldn't, an average person wouldn't understand those nuances at
so
all.
in Germany, there's a lot of compliance. We like compliance. Things are a certain way. We do things a certain way, and everyone just understands it. Once again, if you look at the Australian mentality, we often go, "That's nice. Why do we do it that way? Let's challenge that. How can we do that differently?" So, the policies that were written in Germany very precisely to make sure that it was appropriate, so that they could just read and go, "Okay, let's move on."
Okay.
So.
Still don't understand that. Can I just drill on that a little bit? I might
course.
admit, I trust you've explained it properly, but I didn't understand it. Are you saying that in Germany they don't want to have employees question things, or?
Rule following was a strong part of the culture when I was there.
Which was? Sorry, explain that to me.
So about 25 years ago, the culture in Germany was very much, if there is a rule, we follow the rule.
Okay. I thought you meant the opposite. In Australia, there's more acceptance of questioning the rules than in
Yes.
Germany, you're saying.
That's right. In Australia, there's more acceptance of questioning the rules. In Germany, if there's a rule, you follow the rule.
Got it.
So you
And
have to
so-
make sure those rules are right from the get-go.
Okay. I mean, if anything, I see what you mean. If there's an option to question it, you can argue that if you made a mistake, it can be discovered and corrected. But over there, that mistake can grow and become a major problem without anybody noticing. So you feel that you have
Yeah.
more of a pressure on you to get it right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Mm. And we moved that organization from that small startup to being working alongside one of the world's top 4
That is
IT
phenomenal.
companies
Really proud of you.
in
I
Palo Alto.
didn't know that about you at all. That is really something I highly respect.
It,
Must have been incredible learning for you.
it was an incredible
Give us
learning.
an example. Share one thing with us that you really feel was defining moments, for example, in your career. It's either because was I don't know, a lot of hard work, then there's a success, or maybe an eye opener for you. Really, as a professional, was an eye opener, or whatever. Something that you can really want to share with us.
So, one of the most important parts of that role was we had venture capital funding very early.
Sure.
And so, to get approval to do things with venture capital, there had to be really strong business cases. If you ask most HR people who were my age at that sort of stage in their career to develop a business case for why we would do recruitment differently or why we would put in place, in my world, career conversations, performance reviews.
Sure.
A lot of people
Policies, for example, as
would
well.
struggle.
Yeah. No.
Why do we need to go through a business case for something that just seems like it's the right thing to do? But I had to learn how to really carefully craft a business case.
Sell all these
Make
things
the
that you.
numbers work. What happens if we don't do it? What's the cost if we don't? So the idea of being able to quantify what HR does was really important to me then and has remained important to me for the rest of my life.
I love the way you described it. You had to justify small things that perhaps would take for people now would take for granted. You had to write almost a business case for all these small adjustments they had to make.
Yeah.
But that, although that would have been very frustrating, but that would have really made you a tougher, because when you're writing something, you really think twice about it. You have to really analyze it a lot more and you understand it better and you feel more confident about it. Would it have been really, if you take away the frustration aspect of it, the fact that why do I have to justify this is common knowledge in the business world, but that would have made you another level of professional, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I believe, and I'm happy to have all the conversations that people want about this, that Australian HR was more developed and more aware of the employee engagement impact than German HR was. So, in particular, when I was working in in Germany, there was that moment of, well, people just do it because they're told to do it. But when you then take that to the venture capitalists and you're working with them in America, in Palo Alto, at the time of that tech boom, where people were getting paid ludicrous amounts of money.
You needed that difference. The money isn't good enough.
Well,
so the engagement would have been this boom, that differentiator, right?
You had to make sure that, the people that we're bringing in were going to stay because they would leapfrog. They would use you to get somewhere else, to get somewhere else.
Yes.
We were never going to be, well, maybe we could have. We were never going to be the next Microsoft. But we had this ideal little niche that we were amazing at. Nobody else could compete anywhere near what we were doing. We just blew everyone out of the water. But still getting people through the door, still being able to justify why to come to us. And then you've got these really expensive resources that everyone is competing for. You need to turn them around and they need to make us money quickly, because that, what we refer to as the burn rate for a business like that is massive. Before you start getting paid, it costs you a lot of money. You guys know this.
Yeah, of course. Cost of recruitment, yeah.
But the cost of actually developing a product, you spend years often developing a product before you really start to see the return on investment.
Sure. I must have missed your point. I thought you were talking about those resources.
I am.
The cost of getting into the door. Sorry, do you mind?
So the cost of those resources, it doesn't get paid off in 6 months.
Sure.
Because they're building something that is a 3-year or 5-year vision.
Sure.
And if they're going to come in and then we're going to lose them and they're going to leapfrog out to the next opportunity, then we're just starting to get them role ready and being able to really contribute, and they're going to move again.
I think
So,
that's fairly common across the board. You must know something that I still don't understand. But I would agree with you, but by saying, I think for every business, an HR
mm,
professional argued that it takes really onboarding for me is 18 months, not one
oh,
or 3 months in
absolutely.
terms of before
Yeah.
you start to get full return on investment. So I totally agree with you
Yeah.
at so many level, but forgive me if there's a nuance in your conversation that I still didn't get.
So, what I hope people understand
Yeah.
is when you're then trying to quantify and every dollar that you're spending analyzed, and you're trying to explain to people that the investment now will pay off in 5 years' time,
Yeah,
that's a really tough ask of
it
somebody who's
is.
giving you a lot of money.
It is.
So that's why the analytics of HR, the business case building of everything that you did.
All right. So you had to justify to the investors part of putting a business case for every HR initiative.
Mm.
On this occasion here, to make sure I paid full respect to the point you're making, you had to justify for them why I need to make certain investments in the retention, because I'm arguing if these guys don't on average stay for 2 or 3 years minimum, it's a bad investment.
Yeah.
Therefore, I need initiative A, B, C, D to create something special about why us, as opposed to just the dollars, which the
Exactly.
guy next door down the road can offer too.
And he can offer the BMW.
Absolutely, on top, as a matter of fact. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, being in Germany, it's only going to be Mercedes or BMW. I'm joking. Sorry. But
It was very
am I
true.
on the? Did
Yeah,
I? Yeah.
that's right.
Okay. I
Because
totally
they
agree. I
they
see what you
turn
mean.
over so quickly otherwise.
I am totally blown away that you've had that experience in
Mm.
your mid to late 20s.
Yes. And I look back at it now and I go, what was I thinking?
I'm blown away.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So that's really some of the defining moments in your career that made you who you are.
Yeah. Because then when you play that forward and people say, how did you get that approved? It's like, I don't know. I just wrote the business case.
Yeah.
It's, why did they approve that? They
Yeah.
would never approve that for me.
Yeah.
They would if you wrote the business case.
Yes.
So,
Wow. You really taught me something. Opened my eyes about something here. This whole business case thing
mm,
for HR.
yeah.
Yeah.
So much of what HR does should have a business case that ties to it.
Yeah.
But we skip that really important
Yeah.
step
But
because
you
we're
know,
busy doing the stuff that we do.
but back to your point, if anything, you said to me even before we started to record, why do we need to use all these HR terms? So even what I just said before is even wrong for HR, business
Mm.
case for why am I even saying that word? For Christ's sake, retention of people is HR. It's the heart of any business.
It is
Why is that
all,
in the HR
yeah.
department? It's every CEO's problem. It's every CEO's business.
And every manager's problem
Yes.
because if they
Yes.
lose one good person, then
It
the
can
rest of the team have to pick up the slack. And if you're in a small business, you probably don't have
Yeah.
the rest of the team.
Yeah.
That means that you
How about
put that hat back on.
why don't we challenge ourselves? I mean, Chris can hold us accountable.
Mm.
We will buy Chris a drink after the podcast every time we say HR
Okay.
on this podcast. How about that, Chris?
Oh, you're going to be so drunk. I'm sorry. Oh.
Okay. No, I 100% agree with that. That's amazing. Thank you for an amazing intro. It was supposed to be an intro, but I've learned tons from it. But wow, what a career. An
Mm.
Australian person under the age of 30 being part of a startup in Germany, writing business cases to investors in the US, and was part of that team successfully to grow it from 20, 30 people to 180 people.
Yes.
That means you survived those business cases.
Yes. And then the tech bubble burst and we had to let everyone go.
Right. Sorry to hear that. But well, okay. So let's now talk about at which point then, so that was late 20s in Germany doing that. At which point did you start Impact HR? What did you do quickly before that?
So in between that, I worked with a number of Australian companies. I'd come back to Australia to start up the Impress software.
So you tried to become a normal person by that time.
tried hard. And, I worked with a number of companies here in Australia. I discovered that I really liked brownfields. So brownfields in business speak is when there's already an existing department, but it's not working.
I
So,
never even heard of this term. Thank you
so
for the
you
education there.
you know about greenfields where there's nothing built and you get to build it from scratch.
Sure, vaguely I even know about that, but the
Okay.
green, I understand what it
Yeah.
means in that.
So if you think about brownfields, everything's dust, everything's been built and destroyed. Often, I'm going to say the word HR is one of those areas. You've had somebody in, it hasn't worked, it hasn't
Sure,
progressed.
sure,
Managers have worked around HR
sure,
instead of partnered with
sure.
HR. And so for me, I found that I just had a sense of how to get things back on track quickly.
Well, after working in a startup, I don't
Yeah.
blame how your brain's thinking like that.
And the difference between making little changes all the time and using that to really leapfrog progress just made such a huge difference. So
That continuous improvement.
yeah, so you can't say to a team of uh, I'm going to tell you about when I worked with Manpower. When I started working with Manpower, the recruitment organisation, not the Australian men's strippers, that's not who I worked with.
Oh, I didn't even know there was one,
Yes.
but I certainly know of Manpower. They actually
Mm.
used our posting software
Yeah.
15 years ago. We were AdLogic at the time. That was the
Yes.
first product we launched into the industry.
Which is why I said I was so surprised that I didn't know that
Martian
Logic was actually AdLogic, because I was working there
Mm.
when we used your
Here you
software.
go. Here you
Yeah.
go. So Martian Logic was always the company from day one, but we decided, because it was all built around the AdLogic, the posting system, we thought it would be cute to come up with a name that reflect the product as the brand. So we made it the face of the company, but the company all along, legally speaking, was always Martian Logic. So
So cool.
yes, so we understand each other a lot better.
So I worked in that organization, but when I started, there was a very small HR team and nobody really respected the role of HR.
So at Manpower, you're in the internal HR team,
Yeah.
not a recruiter.
Not
So
a
you were
recruiter.
hiring foreign bunch of recruiters. Whoa, I would have not taken that job. That's very brave.
And if you think about it, there are many recruitment professionals who believe they are HR professionals when they have expertise in one of 6 areas of HR.
Put on top of that, they are salespeople at heart. Very super hard to manage these folks. I mean, I love them. I have the highest respect for them, but I'm just saying there a lot of individuality in there.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that was my role. And I just love the fact that with this really small team, we made so much progress so quickly. It was just awesome to see how much we got done. And, over time, my role changed and, became regional. And every step of the way, I had this amazing team that was growing around me. And every time I thought, right, I've got my team sorted and we'll be settled now, then they'd find some other area that needed support and I'd get another piece of the puzzle. So when I started, it was core HR. So that for me is recruitment, performance management, it's, developing people. So actually training didn't start with me. It added later. And then, we had work health and safety got added to my portfolio. Then internal communications got added to my portfolio. The next thing you know, you have all these other things that are added. So the role just kept growing because again,
You must have learned a lot through that as well.
yeah.
That's a very interesting role.
And it was amazing because I got back to working in Asia Pac, which was where I started.
Yeah.
So
I'm sorry, HR Pack, did you say? What is that?
Asia Pac. So as the
Of Manpower.
yeah.
Got it. So you started to the overseas operation, which is interesting in its own right in
Yeah.
terms of compliance and issues and
Yeah.
yeah.
So I had the 14 different country HR managers dotted line reporting to me.
Got it. That's solid.
Yeah.
It's a lot of learning there.
It
Yeah,
was,
yeah.
it
But
was a lot.
but you know what? You well deserved it from your experience with Germany and Japan and all that. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's amazing.
It was fun.
Awesome. And that is it in the corporate world. That was the
That's
last role
it
prior
in the
to
corporate role.
ImpactHR.
And then I had my baby.
What was that moment? Sorry, I'll come back to the baby, which is huge. But the moment when you said, I've had enough of corporate, and clearly mum, dad, someone said to you, you're a crazy person. Are you sure you want to take that leap? And instead of just have a nice, comfortable job, instead of taking the risk and whatever. Take us through that moment when you made that decision.
So it was actually very different because I had stepped away for corporate, had my first baby,
Okay.
and I was about to return from maternity leave.
Yes.
And
12
so
months.
12 months,
Sure.
looking at what the options were. And my husband traveled all the time too. And my role when I was responsible for Asia Pacific meant that I would often have very short periods of time before I had to jump on a plane and go somewhere else. You can't do that when you've got a baby at home. They
No,
need you, they need consistency.
absolutely.
And so I was going, well, where to from here?
Mm.
And one of my friends opened up and said, you've already run a business, you just get paid in roast dinners and red wine. And I was kind of like, hang on here, what's going on? And she said, every time I have a HR problem, I call you and I say, would you like to come for dinner? And you say, sure. I don't have anything on whatever night. She fed me roast beef or roast whatever
Sure.
and gave me wine.
So that's what she was referring to. That is so honest, so brilliant.
And then she said, you just need to up your prices.
All right, we'll get an expensive wine. Fine. French wine. Okay.
So from that, I started to really do my research and I started to have a look at what was happening in
Sure.
small business HR.
Sure.
How many people were going through what she did? Every 4 to 6 months, there was another issue. I'd get another free dinner. What was going on for small business? And the truth of the matter was that back then, there wasn't a great big call center that you could call and get really good information.
Sure.
The website was clunky. The website referred you back to the award that was the problem in the first place because you couldn't interpret what it said.
Is that early 2000s?
2008.
Okay, late.
So there was,
Ooh, GFC,
yeah.
the dreadful time.
So there
Well,
was
didn't hit
lots
Australia
going
to 2010, but certainly you would have been aware of it at that
on.
time.
Already lots of companies feeling the pinch. And so for us, it was the family discussion with my husband was, well, can we make this work? It's like, yeah, we can make this work. Whatever you touch, you're going to be successful. Go and do it. Give it a shot. If it doesn't work, we'll always try something else.
See,
So-
that's very important. What
Yeah.
your husband just said there, and the fact that he was earning decent money as well. So, in a sense, I mean, you were lucky from that point of view as well. I'm
I
not
had a
taking
safety
anything away
net.
from you. Clearly,
Yeah.
you made it happen. That's full respect. But yeah, I guess you might have been a little bit more luckier than another person with similar sort of aspirations, but maybe that background held them back. They didn't have that supportive partner. They didn't have a partner that's working at all or working with tiny money. So I guess you were a bit lucky there, yeah?
Oh, absolutely. And, it's always been, something that when he was running his business, I had the stable income. When I wanted to take this shot, he said, yeah, I've got my stable
It's
income.
amazing.
You go
Brilliant.
and do you.
Brilliant.
So, yeah,
Yeah. And that's it, Impact HR.
that was the birth of
Okay.
Impact HR.
And when, as I mentioned before, you focus on small businesses, was it always from day one, or after a few trials and errors, you decided this is where the opportunity is?
It was always going to be small business.
And the idea is because as a small company, you're not going to be able to afford HR, or at least a quality HR person.
That's right.
I want to say quality, I'm not reflecting the human being quality, I'm just saying with enough experience.
Yeah. So one of the things that I discovered very early on was that people would say, I've gotten advice from, and it was their accountant or,
I know.
somebody at the football field or, somebody with amazing intentions
Yeah.
who knew 70%.
Yeah.
But the really critical 30% that
Yeah.
they were missing, that was the problem.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I could
And-
actually see the picture
Yeah.
exactly how you,
And so
the gap and the issues.
for me, and I know there are amazing business owners out there who navigated it all without anybody's help. But just being able to have that conversation and say, but if we do these 3 things, or let me write that letter for you because it will give you
Or that
peace of
policy,
mind.
or that, yeah.
Let me take that burden off you because you've got enough going on.
Yeah.
And you're the one who's going to have the conversation, but I'm going to write you a script.
And I can do it better, more compliant, tighter.
Yeah.
Absolutely. This is why I use a lawyer, similar thing.
Exactly. And so by being able to help in that way, I knew in my company, we talk about the pebble. I want my team to be the pebble. If I drop one pebble into the water, the ripples go out.
Sure.
If I help one business owner to have a less stressful day, they go back into their team less stressed. Their team benefit from that.
Rippling effect.
The
through
team go
company.
home to their friends, their family, their loved one, their kids, and they've had a better day. And that then means that the people surrounding them have a better day.
Yeah.
And suddenly we've got this ripple effect. And small business, when I started working in that space, was more than 50% of the employees in Australia. It's shifted recently. So when I started, 56% of the population were employed in small and medium-sized businesses that employed less than 200 people.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone goes, how is that possible? BHP, CBA, name an acronym.
Sure.
But the truth was that that's where all the employment happens. The local employment in any small country town,
Yep.
the cafes,
And that's
all of
across
that
the
stuff.
Western world, not just Australia.
Yeah.
That is the case. A lot of people don't know it, you're right.
And so there's this huge team of people who are just doing their absolute best to create employment and wealth for others and hopefully benefit themselves, who constantly put everything at risk to do the right things for others, and they weren't getting supported in the way that they deserved.
Yeah.
So when I started to really dig into those numbers, it was just mind-blowing that there wasn't 1,000 people like me going, let's all do this.
Yep.
There are now, but there wasn't back then. So
Yeah, brilliant. Okay. So with Impact HR, you've worked now for, how many years since Impact HR?
15 years.
15 years. That's solid.
Yes.
Share with us some interesting problems and again, things that you're really proud of that you made a huge difference.
Okay.
So let's make it a learning experience to people listening.
Okay.
They're going to learn from that mistake that perhaps someone could have made or maybe made, and where you helped them to get out of it or correct it.
Yeah.
And let's just people learn from it.
Lovely. So there's a couple of really good examples. There are things that people don't normally think of. We work sometimes with the Australian subsidiary of an international company.
It's everywhere.
And the Australian team is going to be relatively small,
Mm-hmm.
20, 60,
Sure.
that sort of number.
Get it?
But the HR is all done over in the head office.
Yes.
And so they're having a look at things and they're just doing the skim because that's all the time that they have. So they know that Australia has minimum wages. And they go, great, we're paying everyone above the minimum wage.
Okay.
When they make somebody redundant or they terminate somebody and they don't quite follow all the processes that they should, that person then gets legal help. And the legal help starts to unravel what's going on.
What's to unravel?
And what's to unravel is that
They
they
paid them
had
above the minimum wage. Why would they be
every-
complaining?
because every award has different levels within it. So if I'm, for example, a private clerk,
Mhm.
you have different levels. And even if I'm at the bottom level, if I have been with you for 1 year,
Mhm.
that rate goes up. If I've been
After 12 months.
After 12 months.
Automatic pay rise.
automatic pay
Yeah.
rise
Yes, I'm aware of that through the health and the private schools, the independent schools industry, the education awards. I see what you mean.
across all of it. So if I have certain skills, so I'm a private clerk, I've been working in accounts, I used to just do one aspect, now I'm doing both accounts payable and receivable, and I've got some responsibility to provide advice to other people in the
Sure.
team
Sure.
because I've been there for a while and I know what's going on.
Mhm.
I'm a different level, but they hadn't done any of those processes.
Wow. You
So-
just taught me something like I did not know what you just said. About this,
Incrementally.
the other skills and whatever, that how that determines that, and they have the right to be in the next level.
And
Oh my goodness.
every year the award changes, and every year you need to make sure that people are paid at the right level. So once again, if the only number
So
I'm
why do
looking
we
at,
make it that difficult in Australia? Do you think it's difficult in general? I'm sorry, I've changed the point
No, no.
abruptly. That's probably rude.
no,
But I feel
it is.
sometimes I have that feeling every time I'm talking to amazing professionals like you, and they enlighten me about things to do with the awards. I feel, why the hell does Australia make a system so complicated that small businesses struggle through it and make mistakes?
Absolutely. So, without a doubt, Australia is one of the most complex, if not the most complex.
So how would the
Oh,
government argue this point? Would they say, well, it's tough, we need to be fair?
That's
Is that
the
really what it is? To be fair, unfortunately,
yeah,
has to be complex?
that's the government point of view. If there's not the structure around there, then people will, business owners,
Yeah, it'll be left up to people's opinions, judgments. We need to make it concrete. We need to lay out rules, and
mm.
I see what I mean. Yeah.
And so once again, different perspectives of the same solution. I am a small business owner. It's hard. I can't understand this. I can't navigate what I'm supposed to do. I can't sleep at night because I've got this weight on me. And the government is saying, but by us giving you structure, surely that takes all the stress out of it.
See what I mean? It's a double whammy.
You can't
Hard
argue.
to understand it,
Yeah.
but it provides structure and it provides fairness, and it's a balance of how much
Yeah.
the compromise that you have.
I'll come back to that. But there's a point that I want to make about work health safety, including psychological safety. But let's come back to that later.
I would love to talk about that whenever
But
you want. That
shall
is
we
a
talk about that now?
oh my God, a huge
Okay.
topic of mine. I had an interview with organizational psychologist,
Mm. I saw
an
that.
amazing
Yeah.
human being, Rachel Clements.
Hmm.
I love this person. She taught me so much in the 3 hours that we
Yeah.
chatted. Oh my gosh, she blew my mind.
Yeah.
And I started now to make correlation. Every time I'm learning about people performance and management, I bring it back to the psychological safety thing. It's the most amazing thing. So go for it.
All right. So one of the core tenets of psychological safety is that I work in an environment where I have known responsibilities and that I get a say in what changes. So if you're working in a small business or a corporate
Yep.
and I want to change your role as the HR person or the manager, normally what we'd do is we'd consult with you. We'd say, hey, here's what we're thinking about. What does that really mean to you? Tell me about that. And if I'm not working with you to create psychological safety and the role is not reasonable and manageable, then you're at risk of a work health and safety injury. And the
I,
owner of the business is, at
I know
fault.
I see it slightly different with a
So,
small nuance. I'm sorry, I'll let you
okay.
finish first.
So if you then think about it as a small business owner, the people that are telling us we need to create psychological safety for each member of our team
Sure.
are the people who keep changing the rules. And the number of legal
The
change,
rules being, for example,
employment law within Australia. So last year,
so you're referring to
the
the
Australian
government
federal
is saying, look,
government,
psychological safety is very important, blah, blah, blah. And you're saying they're complicating the system. So therefore, there's more opportunities or chances of people making mistakes, managers making mistakes, etc. Is that the what you're arguing?
business owners are constantly under pressure and feeling frightened and overwhelmed by the level of change that is coming because of the constant change that the federal government gives us.
And that's mostly around employment law and awards and stuff.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So,
Let me just, what you said before, what I understand
mm,
psychological safety from my limited knowledge about the topic, I'm fresh to it.
mm,
Um, I don't know. Psychological safety is to be able to have a conflict in a positive way. So, for example, if you go to, what's his name, Patrick Lencioni or someone, the guy that wrote the five
yeah,
dysfunctions of a team.
yes,
I mean, that was the whole pyramid thing, trust and then conflict, right? You
yeah,
have to have healthy conflict-based conversation.
yes,
I mean, if we bring it back to this, psychological safety is the fact that when we're having a meeting, no matter what the meeting's about, including changing your responsibilities in a positive or negative or any meeting, yeah,
mm,
about a client, about you,
yeah,
about the product, about
mm,
the floor, about the toilets that we have, about policies we want to have, about non-smoking or no vaping or no mobile phones or any
yeah,
conversation. If there's a trust and whereby the employee feels that they can be themselves and speak their mind, knowing that there will be no ramifications, then they're going to not going to be held against them. There's going to be not going to be any revenge. Not going to be get fired. If this rule, if you stick to this very one fundamental rule, then this just falls under the same thing. It's just conflict-based conversation where some hard truth we need to face. You might be given more work and responsibilities, but I truly believe you have the bandwidth to handle it, or whatever it might be. As tough it might be, it could be tougher than that even. But there's a trust to you trust that I'm saying this uncomfortable thing to you because there's a good reason behind it. And what do you think about it? You can say your mind and tell me if there's maybe a reason why we don't need to do it or whatever. So do you know what I mean? Or
Absolutely. And trust is a huge part of psychological safety, but it's not the only part. And so if we do come back to trust and you ask the small business owner within Australia, do you feel that the government is working in your best interest? Do you feel that do you trust that the government's making decisions based on your best interests and the best interests of your business? I'm going to say that a lot of them are saying no.
I know, but Therese, like in the sense, look, you know, I'm so sorry to be maybe a bit, I don't know, I might be offending some business owners here, but my reply would be that to be, come on, man, grow up and deal with it. You know, whether it's the government giving you a hard time right now, or you think they're giving you a hard time, too much rules, complexities, which is I've already mentioned, that could be the case, or whether the market is tough, there's a recession happening, could be a lot more worse situations you're having to deal with. You're a leader, deal with it.
Yeah.
Be civil about it, be smart about it, have a good conversation, allow people to have their opinion, sleep on it, process it, make decisions. It falls in the same category of all the problems we have to deal with as leaders, right? So why do we need to baby them on that basis? Oh, you poor thing, the government making your life hell. I mean, I don't know.
And I guess what I'm going to say is
Talk to Therese. That will help.
what I'm going to say is I feel that we need to understand that there is psychological safety for employees, and we have a duty of care to do that and provide that.
Yes. But
Likewise,
that covers all topics. Why we are isolating this particular topic, giving it some kind of its own category. That's my question to you. Please educate me. I must be missing something.
No, so I agree. The legislation has changed, but right from the get-go, that number of years ago when I started working in HR, it was always the same because the foundations of building successful HR practice in any business comes back to, do both parties believe that when we work together, we're going to get a better outcome for everyone?
Yeah.
When we do that, it works well.
Yeah.
What I'm hearing more and more from small business owners is, I don't know that the government has my back right now. I don't know that I can do this.
Frustrated.
And
a bit of frustrating there.
What I'm saying to them right now is, it's how we have to move forward. We can't change that.
Exactly.
But
we can do our best through our associations, wherever, to lobby the governments, do your best there. But at the end of the day, your employees don't need to know about that. This is another problem. As a business leader, you have to deal with it. Process it, deal with it, take the frustration somewhere else, maybe with Therese, get a professional like Therese. That's where you voice your frustrations, deal with it, come back with cool mind, cool head, have that conversation, that difficult conversation, you by yourself or with Therese of the world, and deal with it and move on, just like any other challenge you have in your business.
Because the truth of the matter is, there's going to be another challenge. There's going to be another change.
The next hour, you're going to have another challenge. I mean, that's what we do for a living. We solve problems and...
Yeah.
So, but I see what you mean. See what I mean? Definitely a lot of people argue that we've got too much legislation. And it's been forever argument in the Western world about the role or the benefits of having bigger governments, more complicated governments, too much rules, whether that stifles business or the, entrepreneurial spirits instead of, or does it encourage it or stifles it and does it get in the way of doing business and stuff like that. Smaller government, less rules, etc. But then again, I wish it's that simple. As a culture, the culture's evolving, the culture's demanding certain equities and rights and whatever, and government sits there and going, all right, how do I create a balance here between allowing my companies to compete on the global stage and between giving my people here
Mm.
the kind of thing they want as a culture that's evolving. That's what the voices want right now. That's what, populist voice,
And there are other options too. So, one of the things that we are already seeing is strong levels of globalization. Companies that are classified as employer of record companies being able to work collaboratively with employees who are actually employed by somebody else in another country,
Yeah.
like the Philippines or India or Nepal or wherever you choose to outsource your team to. That all gives us more options. So once again, it's about understanding your personal level of risk, your personal level of need for your business, and where certain
Yeah.
things must be serviced,
Yeah.
provided, and where you can do things differently.
Yeah.
Being the right balance so that you get the
Yeah.
best of every world.
Isn't that interesting what you just said? I love the point by itself. What you just said is so true and relevant. But I mean, you even made me think about something else. That same business owner that complains about the government maybe doing,
Mm,
running through too much,
mm,
legislations and rules, they would, if they thought they could be saving money, they would take every employee and put them in another country. So they're looking after their wallets and after themselves, and the government is trying to look after their constituencies. The culture and the people in the country are evolving, and they demand certain things, and they're trying to put legislations to do that. And they get it wrong sometimes, sure. That's why we have lobby and we have you vote and whatever. So,
mm.
if anything brings us back to the of get on with the job and solve the problem. And there's different forum
Yeah.
where you complain and you voice your frustration, but at the end of the day, you've got to come back and be able to run a business with a cool head.
And take advantage of the services that are available. There are actually a lot of services in Australia that are provided to help small and medium sized
By
business
the government,
owners
you mean?
by the
It's
government
incredible to hear that, yeah.
to help with mental health. And there's a lot of not for profits out there too that do
You
the
mean
same
for your
thing.
employees? You're
And
right, you're right.
also for you as a small business owner.
Okay.
So here in New South Wales, um, there's a helpline for specifically for small business owners.
No way.
Victoria
I didn't even know that.
has a call centre with trained professionals
That's
who work
incredible.
alongside you. So I know that I started by saying, is the government actually responsible for our mental health? Because we always seem to be pushing the load onto somebody else. It's not my fault, it's your fault. You need to fix my problem. And that's okay to have that attitude, but at the end of the day, the only person who can support our own mental health is us. We
Yes.
need to start looking in the mirror. There
Yes.
are services, happy to provide people with lists of where they can get
Yeah.
support. And I genuinely hope that that continues, because the average mental health issues in the population at the moment is 19%. What do you think the average mental health issues for small business owners is in Australia?
Ooh, I'm going to guess 50%.
No, it's about 34, but that's really high
That's more than
and
double.
more than double. And it is also the fact that we know that's underreported. So, when you then look at those numbers and you go, right, okay, that tells us something about
Mm,
what's going on right now.
mm.
Small
Look,
business is tough.
entrepreneurship always, it's going to put you under pressure.
Yeah.
And for mental health to rise, I think there's a correlation there. It's not too crazy to expect that.
Yeah.
But whether those numbers, the actual figures, are too high or not, I have no idea. But certainly double an average population is pretty strong number.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Okay. Um, okay. So this is amazing. I've already learned stuff about your world and the world of small business in a way that I probably either forgot as someone who built a business when it was small, and it really is fascinating. That's a lot of world. That's a big world to navigate
Yeah.
through. I mean, my God, I can see so many niches within a niche of that niche of that niche.
Yes.
Like, I'm sure in a sense, even with someone with yourself with 15 years doing this, probably every week you are discovering a new, fresh problem that will motivate you to learn about, and you feel, my gosh, I didn't even know about this.
We have,
It's a big world.
it's a big world. We have a system in our team which is referred to as Brains Trust, and it's where we bring all the tricky stuff. It's where we go, what the hell do we do here? But I laugh with members of my team because there is never a week that goes by where we haven't learned something new,
Yeah.
where somebody hasn't thrown up something that we went, what? I thought I would have experienced all of it by
Mm,
now. But there's still new stuff that comes up
mm,
every day.
mm.
And that is what keeps us interested.
Yeah.
And we work across so many industries. So just when you think you've nailed everything, we start working with a new industry and there's this whole new array of beautiful
Yeah.
learning to be done.
Yeah.
So,
Years ago, I had a TV. Oh, it's not true. I didn't have a TV. It's a long story. I haven't had a TV for 25 years.
okay.
But okay, I used to watch TV, but not my TV.
Yep.
We're not going to go into this area.
Okay. I will come back to it later.
And there was that guy. His name George, a master chef or someone like that on the panel of the master chef, one of the master chefs, who is a restaurant owner, chef, Australian, Sydney based, I believe, maybe Victoria. And within that 1 year, him and another big celebrity chef got in trouble, both of them within months maybe from each other, and even 7-Eleven. In that first
Underpaying.
year,
Yeah.
all from underpaying employees and got in trouble to the point almost, I think he lost his
Bankruptcy.
business completely, bankrupt, and the other chef. 7-Eleven got in so much trouble, almost the operation ended in Australia, all in that 1 year. And for me, that was really stuck in my memory, underpaying people. For us, I think I'm very spoiled in the IT world, as you know, no awards, nothing. We're always paying ourselves.
There is an award.
Oh, I would love to talk to you about that. I mean it. I will
Yeah.
talk to you about that. But I was just going to say, we're paying our people a minimum. The starting point would be 2 to 3 times the minimum wage. The starting point, meaning someone grad or undergrad, like fresh, 18 to 21, we're paying them, I don't know, what's the minimum wage in Australia? 30, 36?
No, way higher than that. So it's about $57,000 now, I think.
Minimum wage
Yeah.
in Australia. Wow.
I don't have the exact figure today.
But that
But,
high? More than
yeah.
40? Wow. So I was really wrong in terms of the magnitude of it. But, people here, minimum 65 plus, like absolute minimum, no degree,
We ne-
18-year-olds starting out would be 65.
We need to talk.
Okay, there's a problem.
Yes, it
Let's
could
talk
be.
about it. Let's talk about it.
Okay.
Let's online. Let's do it.
All right. So the IT industry is covered by the Professionals Award.
Okay.
The Professionals Award does have a range of different things. One of the interesting things is that in the National Employment Standards, which is the Fair Work Act,
Mm.
there are various things that apply generically to everyone. And then in the award, you have specific things under that.
Sure.
Depending on the degree that people have in the professional industry,
Mhm.
they have a minimum starting salary.
For example, marketing kind of degree based or whatever
So
that
marketing
is.
is different. Marketing is its
You're
own
talking
award.
IT?
I'm talking IT.
IT. Okay.
Yeah.
So the degree would be
Cybersecurity or
trying to think, what do you call them?
product.
Computer science or
Yeah.
computing or any of these
Exactly.
variations. Yeah, yeah.
So any of those ones,
Mhm.
they will be covered by your Professionals Award. And that Professional Award, I believe the starting salary is around 70K.
Yeah, yeah. Someone with a degree, IT degree, we're talking probably minimum 90K starting
Yeah.
point. On target earn 120 from the first year.
Yeah.
I was talking about people without a degree, 18-year-old without a degree, but working in IT in support or something like that.
So they're probably going to be covered by the Private Clerks Award. And as a result, they have probably around about the 50.
Yeah, and we start them in the 65 plus. That's what I was referring to. The IT degree
Mhm.
folks and
Yeah.
the 110 on target earning from the first year.
Yeah.
Yeah, so thanks God, we're covered.
Yes. But let's dig into that more.
Sorry?
Let's dig into that.
We will, but thank you. Appreciate the even to offer to talk about it. Thank you.
Mm.
All right. So what we what else we want to talk about? I asked you a question before, and this is, we're going to talk about this for as long as we need to,
Okay.
because to bring someone like yourself to this, to this podcast, it would be a total waste of time if we don't talk about what you are passionate about,
Yeah.
because that's where people are going to learn the most from you.
Yeah.
So you said to me when I asked you that question, I said I want only 5 words because I want to keep the conversation fresh, and you gave me 3, maybe 6. Small business owner, how do they take their business from being or how does a person, sorry, the leader of it, from being a small business owner, how do they become a small business leader?
That's correct.
What does that mean?
A lot of the time when we start our business, because we are particularly passionate about a certain problem, or we want to solve something, or we know that somebody deserves better treatment. There is a driving passion that is often technically based. So we're great at our craft, and then we start to grow a business.
That's the
And
accidental manager.
Absolutely. And suddenly we've got these people who've got amazing technical skills managing a team of people.
You're looking at someone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never signed up to this because I want to manage people. I want to create a beautiful product.
Yeah.
That's my passion and still my passion.
But for our businesses to achieve their full potential, we as humans need to achieve
100%.
our full potential.
100%.
And that means we need to step from managing, or actually just being the technical expert, first of all, normally into a manager role, and then hopefully from a manager role where I'm delegating out things and making sure that the boxes get ticked, to actually leading, to really being able to help people align around what the vision is.
I only understood this, and thank you for talking about this. This is awesome. I'm proud of you, and thank you for choosing this to be the main topic of this podcast, to prove how valuable your point is. I only learned about the difference between a manager and a leader 6 weeks ago. I only started to feel it. So learn about it is one thing. Actually started to feel it
It's
only
different.
6 weeks ago as well, or 5 weeks ago. So yeah, that is amazing.
Yeah, for me, it is the biggest challenge, because when we are under pressure, and let's face it, we've just talked about the pressure that our small business owners are under. 34% of them are feeling a lot of pressure. We tend to not operate at our best self, the good leader. We tend to fall back into habits of either being the technical expert who does it all themselves, or managing by delegating and ticking boxes. And we're not bringing people on the journey, and we're not helping them to be successful. So if there is one gift that I would like to leave as my legacy to the world, it is more small business owners who are better equipped with leadership skills to navigate all of the challenges that we know are in small business, so that they can bring their team on the journey. Because
and why? What's wrong with a small business? It's just staying as a good manager.
The small business is just
why do they need to become a leader?
Because if they want to actually achieve their goals, they're going to need
what goals? Business is making money. They're making profit. They are the only shareholder. Yeah, I'm happy with after a full profit, $200,000 a year. I'm having a good life. I don't want to be more than that. Why do I need to become a leader?
For me, if you're managing but not leading, you're leaving a lot on the table.
Money?
I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about
your... I'm asking.
I'm talking about the contribution that you have the potential to make. Because
contribution?
That you have the potential to make. So
to what? Contribution to what?
To the universe in general.
Okay,
I'm talking big picture stuff here.
Yeah.
Most small business owners have a really big vision, but they get stuck at some point on the way. And a lot of the time when we start working with them, we work out that some of that problem, maybe not all of it, is that they're managing their team, or they're managing the work, not even managing their team. So they can't get past that barrier, and they can't move to the next stage. So
you're saying, I'm sorry, every small business starts with a dream of becoming $1 billion company. A lot of these small businesses that are 5, 6 people and have been 5, 6 people for a long time, they never,
Yeah.
when they first started, dreamed of, okay, I want to build a 5, 6 people company and have a decent life and go surfing afternoon. And I mean, why couldn't that be, this is all I want to do?
And that can absolutely be all you want to do. But what happens when you want to retire or sell the business?
Oh, no, I've been making a couple of $100,000 a year and I've been saving and I've been having more soup and that's fine.
So you're just going to close it and let your employees go?
Oh, I'm a small business. I stayed at 5 employees. I'm a local business, fish and chips place. I've had a great life. The kids went to school. I've got grandkids. I'm a respected part of the community. I've got a lot of friends around. What's that with a good life? Do I close it? Someone could buy it from me with not much profit from it. What's the big
Hmm.
deal about that?
There's no big deal about that as long as that's what you want.
Yeah.
And as long as you know with
Yeah.
your hand on your heart, that is what I want to do. And my legacy for that fish and chip shop owner is I have given and contributed to the local school, and my kids have had an amazing life. And all of those other things are the things that I wanted to achieve. Then that is absolutely perfect, and there's nothing more. But that person has probably got leadership skills that they have learnt because they're probably the ones saying to their employees, hey, he's been in 3 times. Find out what his name is. Make sure that you connect with him. You know when he comes in, he's going to order the flathead and the whatever it
Yes,
is.
please. Flathead and chips,
Yeah,
please, with a Diet Coke, really cold.
exactly. Just make those things happen for
Mm,
him because then he's going to love coming back here. That is leadership. That is helping people understand the connection that they make to the community.
mm.
My Pebble example in that is he walks in and they go, "Hi, George. Great to see you. Would you like your normal? I've already got it. You're normally in at this time on a Friday. I've already got things ready for you." And
Okay.
he walks out going, "Oh my God, this place is awesome."
Okay. So, Therese, I've challenged you on that thing.
Mm.
And thank you for being patient with me because clearly I was just trying to be devil's advocate there.
Yeah,
But you and I know the truth that, let's just say, a decent percentage of small businesses that remain small, the vision started of becoming a multi-billion-dollar company. And you're saying, in your opinion, they could never reach that full potential of the initial dream if they don't learn how to go from an expert at something to be a good manager and finally a leader.
yeah. And the reason for that is that as we scale, we have to let go of things. We can't do it all of ourselves. So if the only way for you to grow is to work harder, it's not going to work.
That is $1 billion point. So nicely where you phrased it.
And so what I want for everyone who works alongside Impact HR and for leaders to have the opportunity to do is to be able to work out what part makes them passionate and what they want to keep, and then be able to put the right people in around them so that
Do the rest of the stuff.
they can have the life that they choose. Now, if that life is knocking off at 4 o'clock and going surfing, I'm okay with that. So I have a team who
Mm,
are passionate about doing the
mm,
finances or doing the marketing
mm.
or doing the IT or doing
Mm.
whatever it is around them. And they can leave the organization at 4 o'clock, go surfing, because they have led the
Let's
organization.
take the
Everyone's
example
aligned.
of that fish and chips place that
Mm.
stayed a local business
Yep.
instead of big chain around Australia worth $1 billion, which could have been a dream. And you're saying this person started out, he absolutely loves being there every morning, changing the oil or the fat, whatever they decided their philosophy is for that, and monitoring when does it need to be changed again, and that crispness of the fish and whatever, all that stuff. He loves being there on that
Yeah.
fry doing that. He loves producing that perfect fish, taking it out of the oil at the right time, let it sit for a minute,
Mm.
take to shape that final temperature inside the fish to be
Mhm.
at that 48 degrees inside the flesh, giving it to the customers. They're just immersed into that, which is a beautiful, noble thing. That's how it should be
Yes.
when you start a business like that. Otherwise, you don't have passion for food. In my opinion, you should never be in that industry. And you're saying, here's a dilemma. if you really want to grow, I'm not asking you to grow, you're saying, because it could be that you just want to stay in that local community.
Yep.
If you really want to grow, we might have a problem here. You cannot possibly just stay that person that's you're only perfect at fish and chips, at frying that fish.
Mm.
So take us through in this scenario here, what it would mean, what are the changes, and where is the difficulty with that person making those changes?
So, for many of us, when we're technical experts, letting somebody else step in and do that, because humans judge. It's not that we mean to, but we often look at what somebody else does and go, I can do better. Or why are they not following exactly my recipe?
Right.
And so being able to work out what the systems are, the processes are, being able to document those, being able to teach them in a repeatable way, those are the things that become really important
Mm.
for this person being able to
Mm.
go, well, if I can teach 5 people to do it, because if my fish and chip shop is so awesomely successful, I might need to be there 7 days a week from opening to closing. What happens if I get sick? I need to replicate.
Mm.
I need to have other people who can do it.
So true, but even in terms of the scenario that I would
Mm.
like to put us through, if you're going to replicate that and having 100 around the country, you're not going to be able to be possibly in those hundreds anyway. So that in itself, that so-called replication, as you put it, is just, it's become obvious that you cannot be on that fry every day,
That's
all the
right.
time, right? In saying that, the way you've explained it, and rightly, you've touched on a point which is, I think we can view it as micromanagement versus the real management. You know, me and watching this guy making every tiny little mistake and commenting on it, that's micromanagement,
It's
right? As
micromanaging.
opposed to giving him some room to make some errors and then come in judgment a bit later, maybe end of the day and maybe end of the week, etc. But you've got to give them some room.
Yeah.
Yeah. I asked the HR professionals once on a podcast, what's the opposite? Is there a word to describe the opposite of micromanagement? He goes, I'm sorry.
Leadership.
Hmm?
Leadership.
Style of management.
Mm.
I don't know. It's one way of
Mm.
saying it. But I mean, I would say that's sort of trust based, give them room to
Yeah.
make some F ups, some
Absolutely.
errors.
Yeah.
It's not the end of the world, man. It's the end of the world. Just 4 p.m. will come and you can talk to them. The
Yeah.
world's not gonna,
Mm.
just give them at least an hour,
Mm.
and then maybe at the break, or just say, hey, when the pressure just settles a little,
Yeah.
let's have a quick chat and take them out. Maybe offer them a
Exactly.
cold drink and whatever, and speak to them about it, as opposed to right there and then you have to comment and
Yeah.
give them that room. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And in it's always praise in public, provide feedback in private.
Nice.
You don't do that feedback in front of the
Nice.
customers.
Nice.
You don't do it in front of their colleagues.
Yes.
Take them aside, you give them an opportunity to say, how do you think today went?
Mm. Mm.
Because they might be harsher on themselves than you ever could be.
Yeah. I mean, that's brilliant. That's one of the key ingredients, how you provide the feedback. But if you don't mind, to go into the nuances of it, if you can comment on the room thing I'm using, give them a little room, meaning
Yeah,
you have to acknowledge that they will make F-ups. They have to. It's part of the process. So,
absolutely.
it's even, do you know what I mean? Different to even the feedback, just knowing that I'm expecting for the next 20 days, this person's going to make in the first day 20 mistakes, and the second maybe 15 and 14 and
Yeah.
30. You know what I mean? Like, allow for that to be baked in that's how it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And remember as well that even when they've been doing it for a while, they're going to have some off days. We're human. We're not robots.
Yes.
We will have days when we come to work, and regardless of how we want to switch on for work,
Mm.
there may be stuff going on at home.
Mm. Mm.
The loss of a loved one, the illness, kids, whatever it is.
Yeah.
We cannot always operate at 100%.
100%.
So be curious, not furious. What's going on?
Ooh.
Are you okay?
I've
How
never
can I
heard that
help you?
before. Is that a thing you've invented, or is it just out
Curious,
there?
not furious is there's lots of variations. Curious, not furious is one of the things that we say all the time.
That's brilliant.
Impact HR has a number of quotes.
I love this one.
I will introduce you to our quotes on Tuesday through LinkedIn.
That would be amazing.
But yeah, we There are lots of things that we say, and curious, not furious is one of them.
That's
Because
brilliant.
the moment you approach that conversation with curiosity,
Mm,
hey, are you all right? I've
mm,
noticed X,
mm,
or talk to me.
mm.
Something's not right today.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Brilliant. You're inviting vulnerability. You're saying vulnerability can be accepted. So they're not, yeah,
I'm
yeah. So they're not
saying,
going to hide. They're going to open up and be
yeah.
vulnerable.
And as a leader, you role model that. You know,
Yes.
um, something we haven't touched on is the fact that when I was about 6 years into my business, I went through chemotherapy for cancer treatments and all of the other things that go with cancer treatments. And through that process, originally I tried to keep everything together and
Mm-hmm.
tried to do the impossible.
Mm.
And I got to a point where I had to say, actually, my lovely clients, I can't keep working with you all. I just kept a very, very
Sure.
small group.
Understandable.
And I needed to also say to my team, I can't keep spending the small number of hours that I have where I feel good
Mm-hmm.
looking for work for you to do because I just need to rest and take care of my kids.
Yeah.
And so being really vulnerable and saying, this is not what I wanted, but this is where I'm at. And it's what I need to do for me, what I need to do for my family. Now let's talk about how I take care of you in that process. And so what that meant was one person was employed by by a client and went with them and worked in house. She was taken care of. One person moved totally different industry and you know has never looked back, incredibly successful, but she would have never left me because she was loyal to me and she was
Yep.
an amazing employee.
Yep.
But that opportunity created a new business that I'm so proud of. And then the third person, who was only working with me casually, just went, actually, I'm okay with this. Let's find something together. And then she took over just doing a couple of bits and
Okay.
pieces in admin.
Okay.
Everyone won.
All right. Let's bring it back
Mm.
to the topic. Your passion and what we want to talk about is, which is I'm extremely passionate about. So I'm lucky to have you. How do we, as a small business owner, how they make the transition to become a true leader so they can, or a leader, so they can fulfill
Mm.
their full potential and their original dreams?
Yeah.
Um, what would you say? Just it doesn't have to be the full list. What comes to mind? Let's take three things, the key ingredients or
Yeah.
challenges that they need to face and succeed at. What would be the number one?
Um, so I'm going to break this into a couple of different kind of snapshots
Sure.
because, first of all, you need to be able to um, be really clear about what your vision is. And you need to make that transferable to others. Because when I share your vision and I get alignment with your vision,
Mm-hmm.
then you have somebody who wants to follow you.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore you become a leader, whether you like it or not.
Mm-hmm.
We do need to start with that alignment around where are we going to go together.
Mm-hmm.
Me going one way, you going some other way, that's not leading.
And
So,
you're talking about a small business owner and their employees. So
yes.
let's say at that point, when that business owner took your advice, or maybe they woke up, they watched a movie or something, they had that
Yeah.
realization, shit, I need to become a leader if I was going to grow this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So at that moment, you're saying to them, you need to go and speak with your employees, share that vision with them, make sure they share that vision with you. They
Yeah.
understand your vision, they share it with you. Otherwise, you might even have to let go a couple of people if they don't
Yeah.
seem to share it. But nevertheless, you need to have a team of people that share your vision. So you got to do your absolute best to sell that vision
Yeah.
and share it with them.
And even if you don't have a team yet, if you are the soloist who says, this is what I'm going to dedicate the rest of my life to, and to do that, I need to put a team behind me.
So as you
Start
start
with
to
your
hire
vision.
from the very second,
Yeah,
from zero time, with that
exactly.
employee, share that vision, meaning in the recruitment process.
In the recruitment process, we set the expectations before we even get started because we set them for ourselves first.
Hmm. Ha- ha- have you had anybody argue on this? You need everybody to share the vision to be able to work in my company. Hmm.
So I have a lot of people who say, that's not the way it works here. And when I go, all right, how's that working for you? Look, well, this person's not doing what I was expecting, and that thing is not working, and
Mm.
we've been trying to get that off the ground for a while. It's like, okay,
Share
so
the
do you,
vision. Sure. Share the vision about. Okay, so we'll go back to the fish and
mm,
chips place. Our vision as a company, we want to become the number one brand chain of fish and chips place in Australia.
yeah,
Roughly, we expect that to be when we can say that around the 65 stores.
yeah,
That's the vision.
okay,
And that would be the revenue by that time around 180 million, right? Okay, great. I'm hiring people to work in my shop, and they are going to be the what? The cook. Let's go
mhm.
back to that. Do they really care if I'm going to be thousand shop place or one if they love cooking fish and they're good human beings? Why do I care if they share my growth vision or not?
So we don't always start with the vision for the next. I mean, that's not going to happen overnight. That's going to be a vision for 10 years.
Sure.
Okay. So we normally start with a vision that's more tangible for our employees. So over the next 5 years, we're going to, this is going to be this is going to be our launch pad. And we're going to launch a chain of these restaurants. And it's going to look like this. And we're going to have the reputation. Everyone's going to want to work here.
Yeah, but that person cooking the fish, why do they care about if one or 100? They are, it's a physical thing. You can't
Mm.
be, you're not doing online stuff.
No.
So they need to turn up on time. They need to be someone that believes in what they're doing,
Mhm.
meaning cooking the best fish and chips in the moment.
Yeah.
Why do you want more from them about caring if you're gonna be 1,000 stores or not?
Because if we start with the expectation and then we move towards that, there's less, I'm going back to psychological stress because we've already set the expectation right at the beginning. We said, this is number one, but there will be more.
Sure. To your point, I can see now the logic in your point. I'm already have an example. You probably can give me a better one, but that person, let's say we want to open the next store and we say to them, I need you to go and train someone over there. And he says, oh, I hate traveling on buses or whatever around
Yeah,
Sydney.
I'm never going to do it. But
Right.
if he also said, that's amazing, but I only want to work in this one, then we'd already have our expectations correct.
Right. Right.
So
Right.
alignment from the beginning helps
Yeah.
us to achieve our
Ah,
goals.
you've turned me around. Oops, that was is that part of sound effect? Okay. No, you've turned me around with that one. I've come around. See what you mean.
Yeah,
What you're saying is it can only be beneficial. It doesn't hurt,
it doesn't
no matter
hurt.
what.
But don't make it so big that they can't wrap their head around it. Just because you can wrap your head around where you're going to be in 5 years' time doesn't mean they can. But if
That's
you
true.
give them the
That's true.
size of vision that's
That's true.
appropriate for
Yeah.
them. So,
Just by saying we're going to be a chain, you don't have to exactly say how many and how quickly,
exactly.
whatever. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
My goal is to have 3 restaurants in Sydney.
Sure. Sure.
Then we
That's the
can,
growth vision anyway, and
exactly.
it's going to excite some people, not excite some people. You're gonna get some feelers back from that
Yeah.
just by saying it. You're going to get that radar bounce back to go what kind of person they are, how they feel about that. I see what you mean. You cannot
But
go wrong with that
the other thing is the more times we talk about our vision out loud, the more likely it is to come true.
as well. So it's
So
got multiple
when
benefits.
I visualize and say, this is what's going to happen,
Mm,
just by putting it out there in the
mm,
world, we're making it more tangible.
mm.
So
Interesting.
our alignment with our own vision is
So
the
that
first step.
was number one.
Hmm.
Should we call it A or number one? What do you prefer, numbers or letters?
I'm a numbers gal.
Numbers go. Number one was the alignment.
Yeah.
Okay, what's number two?
Number 2 for me is actually self-development and working on your own
Hmm.
leadership.
Okay, keep talking. I'm listening.
So,
Self development.
yeah. And that can look like a whole range of different things. So, the world is changing all the time. The things that we are now dealing with that weren't there last year, there's a lot of them. If you look at the development of AI within a very short, see, this is one of those interesting things. AI has actually been around for a long time. We've just started using the terminology AI, and now this plethora of AI tools that have become more common.
Yeah.
So if we think about that range of
Sure.
AI tools,
Sure.
that has gone through the roof in a very short period of
Yeah.
time.
A couple of years. Yeah.
And we have to be always developing ourselves and keeping up to speed with that. For me, part of that development is actually developing your own understanding of who you are, self-awareness, and then what sort of leader do I need to be to achieve this goal? Because if you aren't a leader who kind of knows your strengths and your weaknesses, you don't bring the right people around you to balance that out.
Mm-hmm.
My team will laugh as I say this because we have this conversation all the time. I am the eternal optimist. You find cancer treatments. So I've been through cancer treatments. It was pretty tough.
Fair enough.
But you want to know what?
Yeah, have every right to say that.
You want to know what? For 10 years after those cancer treatments, I didn't get eaten by mosquitoes. Who knew? And my team look at me and go, you are so weird.
Mm.
But there's a silver lining in everything if we actually
100%.
find it. But
That's not weird at all.
downside of that is that if you give me a problem, I go, we can fix that. I'm sure we can solve this. And I sometimes need my perfect balance to go, yes, we can. However,
Mm-hmm.
to do that, these are the things that we need to be aware of. And this is the risk. And this is because without that, I will run headlong into a problem and I won't take account of the wider picture.
Mm-hmm.
So
Tunnel vision is a huge problem.
absolutely, particularly
Even more, the best of us more prone to it. The
Yeah.
visionaries and the hardworking people, and even more prone to it.
I'll just keep working. I'll just keep doing it. I'll just,
Yeah.
more effort in rather
Yeah.
than,
And you get deeper enough at tunnel vision.
and so you need to have the right people around you to make sure that that balance is right.
Yeah.
For me, that means that I need to understand who I am as a human first, and then what balance I need to bring around me.
Okay. So you started. Let's just. There's so much in what you're saying to keep it focused here. You've called it self-development,
Mm.
and that's the number two. So number one was alignment. Number two is self-development on the journey from being a business owner to a business leader.
Yeah.
And self-development, the way you're framing it seems to be, is to continue to understand your vulnerabilities and your weaknesses and your strength, and therefore be able to complement those weaknesses. And one of the problems that could emerge if you're not doing that is you find yourself not having the right people that complement
Mm.
your be the right critique. You need
Yeah.
people to criticize and round your ideas and your thinking, that the healthy debate.
Exactly.
But for that healthy debate to be even more and more effective, it's always going to be useful when you bring people. But if you bring people with the right skills that complement yours, that healthy debate is going to be the most effective for you.
What can sometimes happen in organizations is we surround ourselves with people like ourselves. So if I'm a big vision person and I enjoy the energy of the conversation and I bring a lot of people with energy and conversation, nothing actually gets done.
That's actually echo chamber
Yeah.
by definition.
Exactly.
So you're having a debate, but within an echo chamber.
Everyone's telling
That's
you
not very
exactly
helpful.
what you want to hear. It doesn't work that way. Likewise, if I'm a really slow, methodical, got to have the entire 5-year plan documented with all the steps in it, and I don't have somebody who's got that, well, here's how we cut through. The first time I run across a hurdle or it doesn't go quite to my plan, my whole plan's ruined, and then I have to stop and I have to rewrite the whole plan again for the next 5 years because something's gotten in my way and I can't move forward. So we need to bring the right balance
Yeah.
into
Like,
our
for
world.
example, we've got the, as you said, visionary, let's just call it maybe entrepreneurial. I've heard, I think the HR director of a large corporate, Coca-Cola or somewhere, I was in a conference, I swear I can't remember which corporate, for some reason I think Coke, but maybe not. In her 60s, years of experience, in the HR world, corporate, she said having more than 10% entrepreneurs on a team is like herding cats.
Yes.
Right? It's an interesting thing, but at the same time, you need to have them. And so in our business here, for example, some of my leaders come from corporate background,
Yeah.
and some of them don't at all. They joined the company as their first job, and that's all they know. Very highly entrepreneurial kind of environment. So you've got a nice mix from that, and I can see contributions of both people, both camps, when we're having these conversations.
Yeah.
Corporate people bring us back to certain things and risk avert kind of
Yeah.
environment and thinking, and
Structure.
you've got
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm.
Really interesting point you're making.
Yeah.
Mm.
So for me, it's that kind of understanding there is a role for everyone, but we have to have them in the right role. And then, part of that, if you're in a small team, and this is the thing, you can't have every role covered.
Yeah,
But
you're right.
you may, when you're in a small team, say, my job today is going to be, I'm going to talk about black hats, talk about different coloured hats, and they symbolize different things. I'm going to deliberately be the one that says all the negative stuff. It's really hard for me to do that because I'm an internal optimist. But when my job is to be the negative person, my team need to then look at it and go, well, are those real risks, or are we, sometimes we can become too risk adverse.
It's so interesting what you're saying, Therese, because it seems to be, please comment on that for me. Seems to be, if you really, the ultimate complementary skills for an accidental manager, meaning someone that's good at something. I love the perfect fish and chips.
Yeah.
I love taking it out when it's at 60 degrees and let it settle to the 45 degrees and serve it to the customers. Get that perfect temperature and crispness or whatever. And I want to build a business from there. It seems to be very logical. They tend to want to complement that, well, at least they should, to bring a commercially savvy person.
Yes.
Yeah, that will help to make that a business that can make money, as opposed to be just about the passion of making fish chips. How do we monetize, in other words, that passion, yeah?
Exactly.
It seems to be that's the biggest point of contention, the biggest fights, the biggest problem in any business is when the owner, who's the accidental manager, having commercial-reality conversations with their salespeople or someone like that. Do you have any experience about that and advice about these kind of dynamics?
Yes. And, that's the perfect example. So, the business head says, you give away too many chips. We have to have fish and chips.
That's the commercial person.
Yeah. And the commercial person says, but a serve of chips should look like this and you give this. You need to cut back on how
Sorry, I might have gone confused. The commercial person is saying to the owner, too much chips, unnecessary.
Yeah,
and
don't
the owner
give
is
that much.
saying,
But the owner is saying, but that makes my clients happy.
sure, that's better. I'm sorry, I might have misunderstood what you said before. I'm sure you were right too, but now I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. So the owner is doing everything they possibly can to please the customers.
Yes.
The commercial
But they're not
person
making
is
any freaking
saying
profit. Any commercial is saying that's one of the things we need to do. Yeah.
The first and foremost rule of running a business is have enough money in the bank to be able to pay yourself and others.
Absolutely. It's got to be profitable.
So if we can't do that, something's got to go.
Yeah.
We either raise the prices,
Or
we
some
can't do
chips.
that, or we remove some chips.
Look,
So-
if your business, if that small, sorry, trying to be funny. I don't know if it's going to be funny, but if that business is based in, oh my God, what's the last beach north in Sydney?
Oh, Newport?
No,
No, further up.
Palm
Palm
Beach.
Beach.
Palm, yeah, they can't even sell chips. Did you know that? Because of the birds.
Birds.
It's illegal.
Yeah.
I'm not joking.
Yeah.
The council counseled it. So don't, if you really want to serve a lot, Mr. Business Owner, don't open at Palm Beach.
Yeah.
Sorry. It's not funny,
No.
but yeah.
It is actually very
Okay.
funny that we can't have fish and chips. It's like,
Fish, but not chips.
exactly.
No chips. So anyway, that
But
dynamic between the commercial
dynamic is-
reality person.
Is really challenging. And when I look at it in IT world, the IT head who's just going, oh my God, I've just worked out we can build in this feature. And the product manager going, who wants that feature? Did anyone say that they needed that feature?
Not really, but I like it.
But it's amazing. Look what I can make it do. And I remember you sitting around a table with all of these amazingly clever people.
Sure.
And this one person just going, but why?
Mm.
I don't understand, but why? It's like, because because I love it. I love that we can do this and it's not going to take us that long to build it.
Yeah.
But why even
Yeah.
start building it when we don't know that there's a
That's
need
the
for it yet?
commercial reality.
Yeah.
That needs to be a healthy conversation between the creative people, the inventive people, the product inventors, such as that business owner that knows how to create the best fish and chips in the world, which is, by the way, it's not an easy thing.
No.
I fully respect it. Was
Yeah.
never saying it out of any respect whatsoever. I travel, I'm not going to even, that's how much I value that place. I'm not going to even tell you where they are. That's how much I love it. But let's just say an hour and a half south
Okay.
on a Sunday just to have their fish and chips from
Chips.
there.
See,
That's how much I value the arts of it. And so, I say it with a great deal of respect. So in saying that though, that commercial reality conversations and that balance, it seems to be the Achilles heels for a business that is created by someone who's amazing at their craft but doesn't have commercial maturity yet.
that's right.
And they tend to feel the need to bring someone to balance that, but they don't know how to hire the right person to work with them at the right energy, or how to for them to grow the F up and actually be able to have to take that criticism and actually take the business to the next level, right?
So self-development, that's self-awareness and self-development.
Right, that is your point.
So different.
You are steps ahead of me all the time, aren't you?
Each person. And, one of the things that I've also seen is that the business owner is amazing and knows exactly where the vision is. And then you bring in too much venture capital.
I just said you need to grow the F up, and your point is self-development. That is your point.
Yes.
If you don't have that, you will never be able to realize that I need to start to accept these realities. It's probably me why these conversations not working. Probably they have a good point. Maybe I need to listen a bit better, but that's all self-development.
Yeah, it's all self-development.
You're amazing.
We start with self-awareness.
We've come back to that point.
And that allows us to develop ourselves in the right way. I am going to take it back to where we were talking before, where, the commercial reality is the piece that was missing. There are times when that's the opposite too. And so I need to make it clear that there are times when, the business owner is the one in the right. They know exactly what needs to happen, but the venture capital or I'm looking at all the numbers, takes the soul away because they don't have that balance. And so part of that self-development is, when do I own this? When do I say, my vision is this, and I will achieve the financial goals by this bit and this bit, but that's a line too far. I'm not doing this part of your plan.
But they also need to learn some skills from Therese and be able to write a business case.
They need to be able to write a very good business case. Yes.
So you need to really be able to articulate the value from whether yes or no against this or that.
Exactly. And then you need to be able to measure it, because, in all things, if we can't measure, we actually deliver what we measure. We don't pay attention to it, we don't measure it, then we're never going to get there.
Yeah. Okay. It's very interesting. We jumped from a small business owner, fish and chips place, in their first store, still very early, 2-3 people full-time, bunch of casuals, and where a conversation like that can happen because they've hired a salesperson because they haven't been making much profit, in the views that they would help them to market it better, etc. And then they realize, look, we're driving people in, but we're still not making profit because you've given away too much chips. That kind of conversation. And we jumped all the way to a situation where some VCs involved, and there's a conversation between a founder and a manager and a VC, which is what happened to Steve Jobs, for example.
Yeah.
This is how he ended up losing his job, right? The conversation was between him and the CEO that they hired, whilst he was still the largest shareholder, and between the VCs, the directors on the VC, representative VC on the board. And that's was potentially could have killed the best company that became the biggest company in the world. It was a near-death situation for that company because of that event. It's so interesting, isn't it?
It is.
And you believe Steve Jobs could have been better equipped had he been more matured from a self-development point of view to deal with that situation. Whether he was right or wrong, it doesn't matter. It's how you deal with it.
It's how you deal with it. And I'm not going to comment on Steve Jobs' unique
Well, he's
situation
dead. He's not going to
because,
sue you.
well, I'm going to say I'm just in awe of that human. And so I would never make any criticism of what he's done.
I mean, we don't
when
even know the details. To be honest.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But what I am going to talk about is the fact that sometimes we, instead of delegate, we abdicate. So
Explain that.
um, we, what I would love for managers and leaders to be able to do is actually say, it's your responsibility to help me achieve the sales targets and the profit targets that I need, but I'm still the one accountable.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not abdicating my role as the owner of the business. It stops with me, but I'm delegating, these are the metrics you need to deliver.
Unfortunately, that wasn't possible in his case because they've hired a CEO. The
That's
game
right.
was over by that time. That's very well defined. Who's who? He was
Yeah.
just a director and an employee in the product. So that would have been a lot tougher. But on a small business, which is your area of expertise,
That's
I
right.
totally agree with that.
Yeah.
Can we talk a bit more about that? This is such an interesting area. Give us some examples.
Often what happens is we're really busy. Small business owners are busy. There's 1,000 things going on and we're trying to juggle all the balls. So in my world, we talk about delegate and dash. I'm going to lob a project at you
Delegating what?
and dash. I'm going to lob
Oh,
a project at you.
yeah.
Hey, Therese, I've got this great new idea. I want you to go out and do bloody blah.
And good luck
Whatever it
and see you
is.
later.
Have you got it? And I go, oh, what? Okay, yeah, I've got it. And then I think I'll be able to sit down and plan it out and do what you want. But every time I say, can I just get some guidance on this? The manager or the owner is too busy.
Is that the dash thing? It's like, here you go, see you later, good luck. Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
out of
okay.
here. Boom, done. And then when we don't get back what we thought we'd
Oof.
delegated,
See where you're going now.
what's wrong with you? Why
Yeah.
have you wasted all this time?
Oh my God.
That is delegation and dashing. It's also abdicating your role as the owner of the business.
Indirectly, you're doing that as well. And all of a sudden, you're coming back to be the owner after all that, what's the word I should say here? Not vacuum, silence or radio
Yeah.
silence, whatever. And then you're becoming to the owner and you want to hold them responsible without this sort of guidance and nurturing through it.
So
Is
I'm
that really
expecting,
what we're saying here?
yeah, I'm expecting you to read my mind. This is what I want from you, but I don't have time to tell you what I want. But you've worked with me long enough now. Surely you get what I'm expecting just because I've been in the same
And
room
all
as
this
you.
is assumptions.
Assumption. So I cannot.
Brings us to a very interesting point that I'm curious about, as I mentioned to you in my own personal journey as a CEO and the product that we're rolling out, which is what I'm really obsessed with right now, that weekly catch up of to keep adjusting on the projects and the performance of that person. You know, I would love for you to comment if that's also relevant in the small business world. So what I say to my leaders, if you know, on a Monday morning, you let people know what you expect for the week. You agree with them about what they should be doing for the week. And then on Friday afternoon, you're going to be doing this weekly catch up with them using the product that we have, the performance management, but this is going to be just a weekly catch up. And that's how you're going to speak with them about their commitments so far in the week in terms of attendance. Did they put in 38 hours? Did they put in 30 hours? Did they put in 45 hours? And the focus was there, as you said before, we're humans. The dog was sick, granddad was sick, the child was sick, I was sick, I'm not feeling well, I was having through some mental issues. My focus was really compromised, hardly 50%. So we talk about attendance, we talk about focus, then we talk, last point is those tasks that we said on Monday, how do you go with them? And they need to sort of make sense. Try to put in as much hours as possible. However, I've had this major issues on my mind. My focus was really probably 50%. You can see why my task completion was only 50% or 60%. We go, it makes sense. It happens to the best of us. Don't you worry about it. Hopefully next week's going to be better. How do you now go? Do you think still you're going to have this obstacle? Is the dog still sick? Where are you at? And we work with that, right? So in saying that, what I say during the week, from that, once you've set the task on a Monday morning until that Friday afternoon, that weekly catch up, which is the accountability moment.
Yes.
You've got to be genuinely, in every genuine way, change your position now to be just a supporting person. You support them in their role.
Yeah.
Give them the room to make the F-ups and make decisions and support them. How can I help? How can I help? They need to know genuinely you're there to help them.
Yeah.
And then you hold them accountable on a Friday afternoon. That's the only way to go, in my opinion. That's what we're doing here. Can you comment on that?
So for me, there's a few things in there. Each human is different. And
That's true.
within my team, I have some people that we have check-ins at different schedules. So one of my team members is neurally diverse, and for her, there's more guidance along the way, more check-in points, because that helps her.
Sure.
For another one of my team members, once every 2 weeks is more than enough. She's working on larger projects, and there's that
I know
sort
what you
of
mean.
thing.
Just to be clear, just not because I'm disagreeing, because clearly both points that we're making, they're big points. It takes ages to go through the nuances. But if I may maybe provide more context, I'm talking about this whole weekly catch-up system for the team leaders, meaning the people on the ground sitting at the table with you 8 hours a day. They are, so in a sense, that what did you call it? Sorry, the touch points, catch-ups. What did you call them? The
Career conversations.
no, I'm sorry. Just then you called them
Check-ins.
check-ins. Thank you. It's a very good way to call them. Those check-ins are really done in a sense. You're working with them. You're a team lead, directing. You're not sort of, you got team leader and I'm a manager, perhaps like in a sales team. We've got a team lead and you've got the manager. Yeah,
Exactly.
So I'm talking about really the direct manager, that team leader. You're working with them on the ground. At least you're speaking every 15 minutes, every half an hour, every hour. So probably there's no need for that check-in. You sort of know what's going on. But at the same time, you want to respect their room. You want to give them the room, because that's what that weekly thing is. Then they realize they should have talked to you more.
Yeah.
Then they realize they made that mistake. I've respected your time. I did not want to micromanage to say how you're going, but you never came to me and said, look, can we see how I'm going?
Exactly.
We want it to be that way.
Yes.
Can you comment on that, please?
So once again, there's some things to think about.
Mm-hmm.
When I am sitting in the same room and I'm actually overhearing them, we learn organically just by being in the same room.
Right.
I'm hearing them make their sales calls.
We're on the same table, even to a point. Yeah.
Yeah. They're making the sales call. They didn't close that one. I know the 3 things that can help them close the next one. I'm going to tuck that away, write it into my little notepad. I'll be able to give them feedback later. Absolutely. But if I'm working with a remote team, which is more and more common
You're
now,
absolutely right.
we need to have those.
So it really depends. You're right.
Yeah, so
right,
we've got to be able to kind of adaptive leadership. Look at what's going on in my team. I might have half my team sitting around with me and I might have half my team working remotely. We know that right now, the people who work remotely are saying that they feel discriminated against, isolated, and not put up for promotions, even though they're getting better results, just because proximity counts. So how do I, as a leader of a remote team, make sure that I'm creating perceived proximity for my remote team? Your idea of having that software, which allows us to do those, for me, check-ins, my words, but your software allows me just to have a shared note space where we do that. I can put in my notes so that I don't forget them. They can put in their challenges, and then we get to look at that, because it's not about having one bad day. It's about a pattern of success or a pattern of non-success. Because when we can understand our patterns, that's when we get to make change.
I still would like to challenge you on something. You've certainly opened my eyes about a couple of things there, so I acknowledge a lot of the stuff you're saying. Can I just talk about still this notion that I am advocating here? The way I've described it, and I will still continue to describe it. Let them come to us, give them the room, and hold them accountable at the end of the week, versus the daily check-in. And again, we all agree, for some people, to be fair to you, you're saying to some people, even if we even say to the remote folks, I still think you can speak with them every day. You can speak with them, 5 times a day on Slack, on Zoom,
Mm.
etc. But it doesn't mean you are saying to them, "I want to do a check-in with you.
No,
How'd you go with this? How'd you go with that?" As opposed to saying,
that's business
"How
as
can I
usual
help?
stuff. Yeah,
How can I help? I'm
exactly.
here for you. Is there anything I can
Mm.
do?" And you know what? Even when you know they should be talking to you about something, they say, "No, no, no, I'm cool, I'm cool." You go, "Okay, let the
Yeah,
4 p.m. come and I'm going to show you how wrong you were. And you're going to really now, because I'm a good manager, I'm going to explain to you how you've missed these opportunities. I might have wasted a week or maybe in total, it's not going to be total waste a
mm,
week, maybe a waste of a couple of days for the
yep,
business. But the impact that has that on the
mm,
culture to stay on the opposite of micromanagement is incredible. If
mm,
if you can make it work that way,
yes,
maybe for some people it's not going to work, but if at least the theory you can make it work
yeah.
that way, it's quite valuable. Can you please comment on that?
Oh, absolutely. And I think one of the things that I would just add into that
Yes,
point
please.
is that if we're giving people room to practice and grow, I mean, if I'm saying I'm a in the HR space, I'm a master of my craft. I know what I'm doing. I have confidence to do those things. I can't expect people to actually join my team and the first day that they start working with me, do what I do at the pace that I do it, process information in the same way that I do
Sure.
it.
Sure.
I need to actually be setting my expectations of how they're going to perform
Mm.
differently. So you were saying I'm seeing things, I'm just going to create space for them to ask. If they don't, that's okay. I'm going to wait and give them
So
feedback.
my theory, yeah, it's got a few assumptions. First of all, you were clear on Monday morning
Hmm.
what you expect from the week.
Yep.
Then you're going to give them a room to make mistakes and come to you because you.
Yeah.
But also the assumption that you genuinely not smoke and mirrors. Let them know. That means there's a trust that they know you're there for them, and you're telling them, "How can I help? How can I help?" You're a support
Mm.
system right now. You're not really playing the manager yet. You're going to play the real accountability on Friday afternoon, and you're going to make them realize they should have come to you earlier
Yeah.
if they hadn't. And for those that they didn't need to because they smashed it, they thrive in that environment. They have the
Mm.
expertise of to judge when to come to you and when not. Then it's fine. That is really sort of the environment I'm talking about
Yeah.
that I believe is ideal if you can make work in your business.
Yes. Um, so totally agree with all of that. What I'm going to say is
Hmm.
the pattern of when is different for different people.
Sure.
And I'm also going to just say again that different people m- may take longer to feel really comfortable saying, "Please help me." So you and I have talked about
But they're
psychological
gonna,
safety and trust.
but they're gonna know it on a Friday afternoon, Theresa. No,
Yeah.
it's gonna take that 1 week.
Mm.
You're gonna show them how they failed. Mostly, all their failure was because they didn't come to you on Tuesday or Wednesday. You're gonna be very specific, the actual exact time and date when they should have come to you, when things started to go wrong, and they knew that you know the answer.
Okay.
They didn't come to you, and they're gonna go, "I need to get better at coming back to you, at judging. Oh, there's a bit of a not
There's
sure
my wobble.
situation. I need to come to the
Yeah.
manager." So
Mm.
really, you're wasting. In theory, my theory is at most that first week or maybe 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Is it worth the investment? Keep wasting those few days because long term you're going to build a solid culture.
And not just a solid culture, you're going to build somebody who actually understands how to thrive in this environment.
Sure. So
Yeah.
therefore, do you agree with me, or you
Yes.
still stand by the point of, look, it depends on the person? And I'm going, well, I don't think it does because it's going to take that Friday afternoon. In that first week, they're going to see it. You're going to tell them every meaning, respectful and clear
Mm.
way how for this problem you failed. There's a 3 tasks they failed
Mm.
at. That one clearly is going to become on a Tuesday, 3 p.m. You should have come to me. That one here on a Thursday morning.
Mm.
That one's here on a Monday afternoon
Yeah.
for this matter. Oops. I mean, very
So
clear it's going to be.
it should be, depending on the role that they're in. Um, and then I'm just going to say, I would love it if you can turn that question around
Hmm.
and say, when did you feel the wheels falling off? When did you first
No,
notice
I
the
didn't. What
problem?
question is that?
So you're
I didn't ask
saying
a question.
you're saying to me
Hmm.
that you knew at 3 p.m.
Oh
on
no, no, no,
Tuesday.
no. It from the
Mm.
conversation,
Yeah.
it will become clear to both
Okay.
that they by Tuesday afternoon, for example, when they call the
Mm.
supplier, we're doing a conference thing. They work on setting up a
Yeah.
conference. We have a conference coming up, Edge
Mm.
Tech. They're building a booth. They are talking to the booth builder. They're designing the
Yeah.
stuff for them, and they made a decision there, and that is the bad task they did not complete. And they did not have a prior experience with managing suppliers, and they know I have. They know I'm available for them, and
Mhm.
that decision was on Tuesday 3 afternoon. It's very quantitative. There's
Yeah.
no yes or no to it. They made the decision. They knew it was big enough. It takes a 16-year-old to know it's big enough, and I was there, and they never talked to me about it. How is that questionable that they could have done?
So I'm not questioning that. I'm
Oh,
questioning how you get the information from them.
oh, these are facts.
Yes, it
They
is
sent an
facts.
email. They told that supplier at 3 p.m.
Mhm.
On a Tuesday afternoon that we're going to go with a 6x6.
Yeah.
And it became clear on Friday afternoon 6x6 is our logo doesn't fit right or blah, blah, blah. Why was it such a big deal of you just in case running it by me? You decided not to run it by me and say yes.
Mhm.
And you knew now those decisions, maybe it's a better idea to just in case I'll check with my manager.
So
That's quantitative. It's not a.
what I want you to do, however, is think about how I can turn this into a coaching
Hmm.
conversation rather than a me teaching them
No, I think you're
conversation.
judging what I'm saying now. I'm not even talking about how you have the conversation with them.
Okay.
All I'm saying is, in that conversation, clearly you have it depending on the
Mm.
style of the manager and whatever.
Yeah.
I was saying it should, if you're smart enough, no matter what the mistake is, it should become clear when that mistake happened,
Mhm.
in the sense how it could have been avoided had they come to you. You did not catch up with them on Tuesday 2 times saying, where are you at with this? And let's
Mm.
talk about this and send it.
Yeah.
You let them make the decision, but they realized they made the wrong decision
Mm.
when they could have come to you and you were there for them and you told them they knew genuinely you were there. So they can either say to you, I'm scared of talking to you, psychologically not safe environment, or my bad. I could have easily asked you
That's
that
right.
question. It was a stupid
Mhm.
decision. And it became, and you give them a hug and you say, we're going to do better next week. Don't you worry about it. But what I'm
Yeah.
saying is, it's always comes down to very clear that
Mm.
they could have talked to you.
Yes.
And that's how it's going to therefore be. I don't believe more than 3 weeks. You know, if they're still making those mistakes after 3 weeks, if you have that system in place, you would let them go, as a matter of fact. So really, it's a
Mhm.
small investment before they start to realize that they start to learn how to be better at
Yeah.
when do I need to talk to someone. And by the same time, you've built a really good culture that's going to be an attractive culture to help you to grow.
So for me, that's part of that learning culture and, as you said, the trust culture. If they know that they can stuff up and
Yeah.
just go, oh, my learning from this is ask questions early.
Yeah. Yeah, but
That
the assumption of we have a
mm,
good trust culture, I
yeah,
think was really assumed here in
yeah,
both cases,
yeah,
in your method and my method. I don't
yeah.
think, we were saying,
No.
whether we're assuming that's all in place. We're just talking about someone, the whole question that I keep asking people like you, what's the opposite of micromanagement? I'm genuinely curious. I really wasn't trying to start this as an argument.
Yeah.
I want your honest opinion, because this is the journey I'm on
Mm,
right now, and this is the system we're trialing
mm,
now, and we're still fresh into it.
yeah.
We're seeing a benefit from it, and that is the only reason I'm bringing it up.
Me, as I said, the word that comes to mind if you say the opposite of micromanagement is true leadership, where people know what they need to do to contribute to the vision. And because they have clarity around what their role is in the vision, they know where they can just get on with it. They have frameworks in place to say, when I need to make these decisions, I need a permission point.
Kind of framework and rules for everything
No,
has to
but
come
if
from
you,
those trials and errors. They need to feel it. They need to start to become better and better at when do I ask. Asking too much is not acceptable. Asking too little is not.
so
It's a really
that's
a
it for
judgment they
me.
need to become good at.
But once again, in my team, if you're going to spend more than a certain figure, that needs to be approved by
All
me.
right, but these are rare examples
It's
where you
like,
can have rules. So
yeah,
many.
but
There's a
most of it,
zillion examples where you can't have rules through. It's a really
exactly.
judgment you have to make.
Yeah,
So that's what something you have to be good at.
yes,
And when you build in that journey with them, you take them on that journey to start to become better at.
yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. At some point, someone is not learning, really not going to fit the culture, and you better let them go early enough.
Mm.
But I believe my theory is this is a culture worth investing in.
Yes.
If you can make it work,
Yeah,
I accept the
absolutely.
challenges in it. But it's a really good culture that's worth investing in, and really, hopefully, people that are serious about their career and intelligent enough, they would thrive in that environment and they will learn. They get better.
Yes.
They get better at
Yeah.
it. It will continue to creep up. They're not going to be perfect within a few weeks. I was just saying, you will start to see the trend. They're getting better and better at it. You go, cool.
Yeah. And that trust around, I can make mistakes. It's okay as long as I'm not repeating the pattern. It's always for me about a pattern. You know, people make poor choices. Just don't make that same poor
Sure.
choice all the time.
Sure.
That's when we have a problem.
Sure.
So you're talking about if they keep this up for 3 weeks, that's a pattern for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Totally
we're
agree.
looking at whether somebody's able to change and modify a pattern of behavior that's not successful.
Yeah. You know,
So,
the reason I seem to have been a bit too critical here, and I apologize if I was too confronting, but you know what? It's coming from a real place.
mm,
It's coming from a place where I've made a lot of errors, where I might have ruined certain relationships with great professionals out there, or even clients or partners.
yeah.
Yeah. Because it just really coming from a place where I didn't know any better. You
Mm.
just didn't know any better about, and when you're in the moment trying to build a business, so much pressure.
Yep.
The creative pressure, which is what I'm good at, or the
Mm.
technical accidental manager thing that we
Yeah.
discussed. So the core strength, your core strength is under pressure in itself,
Yeah.
let alone all these things that you're not even good at and you're trying to learn, that you're challenged by. And in that environment, you tend to be, I don't know, you're probably going to have a better way to explain what I'm about to say, to phrase it. Yeah. It's like, man, it's not the end of the world if they make a freaking mistake. Please relax a little.
Yeah.
This is where the place I'm coming from. I've seen the light, I've seen it, and I'm trying to instill that in the managers. And I'm going, this has to be one of the critical things of becoming the opposite of a micromanager, is for you to realize they will make mistakes.
Yes.
They need to make the mistakes. Relax a little. It's what you do with them. It's the holding them accountable.
Yeah.
Accountable is the moment where you bring them up and you make that become a learning experience, a positive learning experience. So it doesn't hopefully happen next week, or they become better at it next week, you know?
In my world, when I'm working with managers, I often talk about software. We all know that the software that we work with every single day has bugs in it. None of the software is perfect.
100%.
And we might think that it's perfect, and then somebody else will discover a bug and we'll go, oh, I need to patch that bug. Humans are a little bit the same. We're all just a piece of software, skin sack, whatever
I
language
suspected
that you
for a
want.
long time. Thank you for validating that.
And as a result of that, we are wired, software programmed the way that we are. Now, there are going to be things that get bug fixed over
Sure.
time.
Sure.
And if we
That's
have,
that self-development, isn't it?
yeah, it's self-development. And if we have an amazing manager, you know, supervisor, whoever it is in our team, who works alongside us and says, hey, just noticed another little quirky bit in your programming, let's work on that together, then that's okay. When it becomes a personal attack,
Yes.
you're so buggy that I can't work with you. That bug is going to destroy our company. That's when it becomes unnecessary
As
and
opposed,
harsh.
frame the opposite now, the positive one.
Which is, oh my God, how great is it that we've discovered this together? And you know what? This is actually something really easy we can work on together. So because of that, why don't we do X, Y, Z, whatever the process is, so you get exposure to it. You can see how I do it. This person over here is amazing at that. You should buddy up with them because they nail that process all the time.
Very interesting analogy about these software bugs and stuff. I like that.
Yeah.
You're full of analogies and terms and whatever. That's amazing. I love that. That's a really good one.
Hopefully
The
when
bug
we
thing.
stop looking at ourselves as humans and we start see that this is normal in nature.
There's some humility in that approach, isn't it? In that analogy, if I may say that. Yeah.
In nature.
Yeah.
This is just part and parcel of everything in nature.
Yeah.
Trees are bent. They grow out of amazing cracks in rock faces. they're resilient, they will survive. Humans are like that too. We will get through all those challenges, but we have to have the right conditions to get through them.
Mm. Brilliant. Brilliantly said. Okay, so we are talking about how a small business owner can transform themselves into a small business leader.
Mhm.
We've cited two things so far: alignment and self-development. What's
Yes.
number 3?
The third is building the right team around you. So you need to have a team, because otherwise you're a solopreneur and you're doing it all yourself and you're wearing 27 different hats, and every day you start at 5 o'clock in the morning and you finish at midnight and you wake up the next day exhausted. Now, if that is your choice, I'm totally for that. But the vast majority of us don't want to work like that.
Yep.
And so you need to put the team around you. And that's when those first two pieces really come into play.
Intuitively, I was going to ask you, you're going to hate me probably. I needed 3 things under that because this is a multi-billion-dollar point that you can write 60,000 books about. So why don't we do that? Let's do ABC. I know you hate the ABC, but we're going to
I'm
call it
happy.
3A, 3B, 3C.
Yes.
Still numbers.
Yeah.
Let's break it down. What are the 3 tips? That's what the ABC is, or topics or key challenges that you perceive around that when the entrepreneur is now going to be building the team around them, that small business owner.
So one of the first things that I see is that particularly when we're starting, we don't set expectations of what we want that team to be like. So we don't start with saying the values of my organisation are. We hire first, or we get all excited and we do things, and then afterwards we try to back build the culture.
Damn, like that. I mean, I can see the problem.
Mm.
Yeah, and I can see how common it could be.
It's very common. And so when we start by saying, and values don't have to be complex, they can be 2 or 3 things. But when we explain them, that helps to reinforce the alignment we talked about, which is number 1.
I was thinking before that's very close to the alignment.
Mm. So start with how we want this to actually grow and what that looks like.
So, for example, a scenario here is we're hiring now.
Yeah.
In the recruitment process, in these conversations, interviews, etc., you want that entrepreneur to talk about what?
The values that are important to them.
Values or the vision? I'm sorry.
So the vision is the alignment
Yeah,
that we have at the top.
Got it.
That's number 1.
got it.
And of course, they're going to talk about this is the vision when they're recruiting people, because that helps
Sure.
to set
Sure.
expectations too.
Sure.
But the values are more around the behaviors that you'll see every day.
Mm-hmm.
So in Impact HR, we talk about we care. Your business is my business. I care about you and your success, and I care about your team. So we have sub-language under we care, but that is the value.
What was the last one? We care. Your business is my business. And I'm sorry.
We care about you, and we care about your team.
But you being the business owner that you're
Yes.
helping
Exactly.
and their team.
And their team. The next one is we understand. We are experts at what we do, but we understand you are not. And that's okay. You're not an expert at HR.
Okay.
So you can wash your dirty laundry in front of us with all things HR. And we will make no judgments on that, because you are absolutely amazing at what you do. And I could never do that in my life.
Okay. So, but remember, we're talking about here the building the right team. So what you're saying, because what I've just written down, the we care, etc. This is what you guys do
This
as an
is-
example. What you do
This
at
is
Impact HR.
my example
Sure.
at
Yeah,
Impact
no,
HR.
that's perfectly cool,
Yep.
and thank you for sharing. I
Mhm.
appreciate that. Just to make sure people understand that. So that would be in your case, you're hiring a new person, an HR consultant, and you're saying to them, look, these are our values.
Mm.
This is how we would like people in our business. This is how we feel about our clients and about their businesses and them personally, and how the
Yep.
value we add to them, etc.
And if you can't align to that, that's okay. But let me know now. And I'm very
Interesting.
upfront. This is how we operate.
is it really genuine to be it's okay, or is it are you going to have some resentment and you're trying to change them later,
No.
which is what happens to relationships as well.
But once
It's
again,
okay if you're a smoker. I prefer not to smoke, but I love you too much, and I'm going. Well, you did not do it.
it's, yeah. So
Sorry, everyone. That was a personal remark. Let's scrap that.
yeah,
Do you know what I mean? Like in
yeah.
relationships, a lot of people do that, and they try and
But
change them later.
if they say no to these, I'd say thank you for your time. I
And
know 5 other amazing HR companies that I'll introduce you to.
but before asking the question, got to be. Oh, are you joking about this?
No.
Yeah, but you need to be. You need to be. Don't you think you've got to be? There's something tricky about that. You've got to be let them know that this is a critical point or something. Do you know what I mean? Like, can you be tricky like that? Ask the question and knowing that the wrong answer is they're not gonna get the job.
But
I guess that happens in interviews all the time.
all the time. It is a core
That's
part of
yeah,
how we interview.
yeah,
And
okay.
you want to know what else we do? When I do my reference checks, I say, talk to me about how they treat people. I want to understand, do they care? Can you give me an example of how they really care? Are they trustworthy? When they tell you that they're going to meet a deadline, do they actually meet it?
Let me pick your brain here.
Mhm.
So I want to pick your brain for our business.
Yep.
And I'm not gonna even shout you a roast and a wine.
You've already bought me sushi and a Gatorade. I'm happy.
Thanks for the reminder. I feel a bit better. But $10 that sushi was actually 14. Let's be clear. All right. No, seriously, I think you'll find it interesting, and audience could find it interesting. So, and that's a real problem that
Yeah.
challenge. Support. Trying to find a support person with combination of genuine customer service,
Yes.
feelings, passion, however you would want to describe that, with being technically savvy and passion for tech as well. They want to learn, they want to grow their technology. Can you please find me one
That's the second time.
on Earth? I mean, there's plenty on Mars. We're doing okay over there, but on Earth, we're struggling.
Okay. I'm going to say yes, because
Mm-hmm.
we've done it for other companies
Mm.
and we've been able to get great people.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's hard and they are rare as hen's teeth.
It
And
seems
when
to
we
be either
find
this or
them,
that, which is, to be honest, not the end of the day, because you can have level 1 support, level 2 support, and that could be the manager, the team leader. They have a bunch of tech guys to work with them. We are large enough right now to be able to do that.
yeah,
But definitely it has been something that I struggled with. And I always try and judge them, say, man, that's not a customer support. Where's your passion for solving the problem? That's the client. We talked about being a kamikaze for the client. Where is that being
demonstrated. Yeah,
demonstrated here?
yeah,
And I get frustrated
yeah.
sometimes with that.
And it does mean that you have to have really, really good testing systems in your recruitment. So when we talk about recruitment, it's not just the attract them in. Your guys' resumes are the closest match to what I was looking for. We ask you 5 simple questions. Thank God they said yes to all of them. We can move forward and then we tick the boxes. What are the actual tests that we do along the way? So for one of our IT companies, we do actually ask those tricky questions. It's like, okay, so I've got the client and they're calling up and they're saying, blah, 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 blah. Here's the scenario. Go. What would you say? And we just wait.
Fair enough.
Because if you're not assessing that
Yeah.
in the interview,
Yeah.
you're going to be assessing it after you've onboarded them.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it's
yeah,
already
yeah.
costing you money.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
assess early and be honest about your expectations early.
Mm.
And if they go, actually, I'm just doing this because I got a degree and I've got to earn some money and I really don't want to do it. What I really want to be doing is grooming dogs. Then say, that's lovely. I have a dog groomer that I can introduce you to.
I do have one. No, not 100%. She's actually been on podcasts, and owner of a dog groom business, became a daycare as well. She employs at least 25 young,
Yeah.
awesome young people, super smart, super bright. I'm a huge fan of hers and her business.
There are enough wonderful people in the planet who are going to fill up all the roles that we have. But often what happens is we have external pressure. People think that they need to do X to make Y person happy.
Mm.
And when they start doing that, then there is no passion.
Yeah.
because it's not driven from internal.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So
Let's try,
ask
make sure
early.
we ask early. I was going to say, I didn't want to interrupt you, but you have a bloody term for everything. I love the assess early thing. It's like, oh my God, so spot on. 2 words. They say so much.
Yeah.
Amazing. Brilliant. I love it. All right. Let me just make sure we come back to the structure I'm trying to build here. We're talking now about building the right team around you.
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking about during the interview, during the whole process, even the ad, the things that you can say
Before,
in the ad, say as much as possible about who you are as a culture, etc. You know, for example, what I said before about the fairness, and I'm sure you are doing that and more. You can even talk about your values in the ad, but it doesn't mean you can't assess them genuinely in the interview in a way to really understand if that is bullshit or they are that kind of person.
exactly.
Sure. And hence the word you're using is assess, not just ask a question. So there's many ways of assessing to make
Exactly.
sure you get the truth.
Yeah.
So that's brilliant. So what's the other point? So let's call this assess early, shall we?
Yep. Assess early.
So assess early.
Yeah.
What would be the second point then? B.
Right roles. So actually spend the time to design the roles that you need. Once again, a lot of the time when we're growing a business, or if you're in a large corporate, roles are predetermined.
Sure.
In a small business where we're just getting started, any hat that you can take off somebody else
Is a
and
good
make your
thing.
own is a good thing.
But it doesn't mean it's enough.
It doesn't mean it's the
Yeah.
right role. So often the
Not
way
defined enough, still very vague, open for interpretations, all kind of problems. You're going to get the wrong person, the wrong skills, or the wrong expectation. It's all over the shop.
yeah. And then they're going to wonder why you're not happy, and you're going to
Yeah.
wonder how they can possibly think they're doing a good job.
Mm.
And we're both thinking the other person can read my mind. And therefore, when they ask you for a salary increase and you think, I need to shoot myself, because how can they possibly ask that? We've just set ourselves up for
Yep.
failure.
Yep.
By having the right role determined
You're
early.
so right. Challenge yourself to write at least 15 bullet points about duties and responsibilities in any order, in any shape. Just have a go, bullet points.
Yeah.
And you'll end up so much better. I've done this before. I've been through that journey, even starting 10 years ago, and I've made those mistakes. And as soon as I started challenging myself to write some bullet points,
Yeah.
don't freaking worry too much. Is that a duty? Is that a responsibility? Just write the damn thing.
Just-
Whatever you can think of that you want them to do or you would like them to do, just create that list and you're going to get better and better at it and identify the different categories and whatever. It's just a step in the right direction.
So if you think about this from a slightly different perspective and tapping into one of the all-time greats, we're talking about right people on the bus and then the right seats on the bus. Put the right people in the right seats.
Sure, sure,
So,
sure.
we're number one, because we're starting at that top level, number one is know where you're driving the bus. That's your alignment.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're talking about number three, and we've got point A and point B.
Sure.
Point A is get the right people, people who are aligned to my values, not people who are like me and do the same.
Meaning the people are going to enjoy that ride
So
on the bus.
not people who are carbon copies of me. I'm an optimist. I want to surround myself with optimists. Don't do that. But find that they have the same values as you, because we need diversity in behaviors.
The distinction there is really interesting. There could be some fine details or nuances there. Can you dig into that for a little bit? What was the distinction between what and what?
We talked before about we need to have the right balance for us.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
if this
yeah.
is my strength, I need somebody who's going to make sure that I don't overplay that strength, because when I overplay a strength, it becomes a weakness. So I need somebody to balance that weakness out. So I need the right people on the bus, but it's not about the behavior that I want from them. I don't want every single person to be a tick the box. I want the right combination between tick the box and get the job done the right way the first time. Because, speed of action compared to action that is purposeful and meaningful, I don't need a combination of both, right?
Can you repeat those two? How
Okay.
do you describe those two? I'm sorry.
Speed of action. We have
A
some
what of action?
speed of action.
Speed. I'm
Yeah.
so sorry.
So
That's what threw me off. I thought you were saying peed or beat and go, what is that? I'm sorry.
speed,
Forgive me, Therese. The speed
speed
of
of action.
action.
So we have some people where it's all about race to the end. I've
Yes.
just got to get the job done.
Yes.
There's no quality. There's no, right?
That is very interesting.
So,
Kind of behaviors or mindsets or
mm,
and yeah, versus the person that maybe perhaps
slower.
could spend too much on making sure it's perfect from the first go, and you need that
I
balance.
need that balance. I
In
need,
software engineering, I don't know, I know you worked in
yeah.
some tech companies, but whether you've ever dabbled in writing software, this is a $1 trillion question,
Oh, God,
and
yes.
we always balance it in software engineers. The people, um, how much do you spend about the soundness of the architecture or the design? There's design
Yeah.
patterns that we use in software
Yeah.
engineering to that will encourage reuse and ease of
Absolutely.
understanding and maintenance going forward. And
And
then
the
you've got the
people who put in their notes,
uh,
the people who put in their code notes.
uh, yes, the notes is one thing, but
Yeah.
it's actually you don't have to put any notes to make your software easily to understand and more reusable.
Yeah.
It follows certain patterns
Patterns.
that
Yeah.
encourage by itself ease of
Yeah.
understanding and the reuse.
Yeah.
And so that's why we use the word engineering. That's what you call engineering.
Yeah.
Architecture is sort of high level than that because it encompasses the software, the database, the hardware, the blah. The architecture is
Yeah.
bigger than that. But when you start to talk about writing the code, there's engineering in there,
Yeah.
and that's where design patterns can be used to encourage ease of understanding, quicker maintenance, and high level of reuse. So that is something that I personally describe. There's art
And science.
as well as science. And
Yes.
there's never a best decision about how much do we spend in the engineering. Is it good enough?
Yeah.
You've got this project, the outcomes from that project, what are the you know the pros and cons of saying we need more time on that project versus finishing it on time,
Yeah.
and therefore at which point we say enough engineering. I know it's not perfect. Let's go. It's a forever question that we ask every
Yes.
single project we jump on, and our top engineers, that's what they do. So I understand where you're coming from, million%.
Yeah. And so that is that behavior stuff. But the values are we care about the end outcome for the client. We care about the direction that this business is headed. We care about those things that are non negotiable right at the front.
Mm-hmm.
So there's the values, which are non negotiable. And then there's that balance of who's in the team. So, first of all, we've got the bus aligned and we're driving. We know where we're going. And then we know which seats we have because we've designed the right roles and we've got the right behaviors and the right person going into the right seat.
Yeah. Makes perfect sense to me. Brilliant. Are you satisfied with the building the right team, or is there anything else you want to add to it?
No, I think that's it.
That is amazing. I feel we've covered that topic, but if there's anything else still on that core topic of the conversation, which is how, and that is, I mean, my goodness, is that a topic or what? As I said, we can
I
keep talking
could
about this
talk about
until
that
we
for
die,
hours.
and we're still going to be learning, and we
Yeah.
could have learned more. And
Yeah.
so, did you ever write any book about this topic? You should.
Actually, what I'm doing at the moment is so we run a program called Leading with Impact. It's training for
Oh, what
small,
of impact?
Leading with Impact.
Oh,
And it's training for small business owners. This is what I hope will be legacy because we'll be able to support more leaders to have these skills.
okay. Leading with impact did you say it's a training program
Yes.
that you could put? It's like almost like a course or something. It's you've been firming up all these things that
Yeah.
you've been learning along the way to put them into
Yeah.
a course, almost like a repeatable kind of to get
Yes.
repeatable outcome. And you're saying you put people through a week, 2, 3. Give us an idea and what kind of investment.
Okay. So this is actually done over a 12-month period,
Oh, okay, 52 weeks.
but
Joking.
it's done as 1 hour a week and it's optional. So right at the very beginning,
My
we
God,
do
52-hour investment for a business owner to transform themselves into a leader.
done
That is
over
a change of an investment. It's
and
nothing.
it's done over an entire year, so you get to choose when and how you
Yeah, it's
invest.
nothing.
We do 2 assessments up front, heart, head, and hands. So there's a method of thinking about leadership because some of us are more heart based. It's all about my team. It's all about the client. There's not a lot of thinking about the financials, the economics, the structures, the scalability, and that sort of thing.
Seriously, if a business owner not going to commit to an hour a week to work with you, they're not committed to become a leader.
Yeah.
They will never make it.
And then you also get an assessment of where your strengths are as a leader. And so you know if you are, because lots of people say to me, I can't give you that hour a week, but this one's really
How can
important
they
to
say
me.
that? God
It's-
bless.
I know, right? But if you know that the 3 things that would make the biggest difference to you are these 3 things and you just focus on those, then you're still going to get the value out of the course because that is what
And
it wants.
can I ask you this?
Mm-hmm.
Because I really appreciate that, and I wanted people to learn about it clearly because I learned from you today. But nevertheless, 1 hour a week, the way you do it, what kind of commitment over Zoom, in person, either? How does it work?
So we have, and this is the other thing, this is my legacy. I'm trying to make it as easy as possible for people
That's
to get
what I
into.
would like to give you some feedback just
Yeah.
because I care
So
about this.
we currently have 2 times. One is Tuesday morning at 8 a.m. because people told us that Monday's really busy. We've got all the expectation
Mm.
setting that we do at the start of the week.
Mm.
But before work really kicks off on Tuesday, that would be great. The next one is Wednesday at lunchtime. And then,
Oh, so let's say it's a Zoom session, multiple people can be on it.
yeah,
So can they ask questions? Is that interactive or is that more of a prezzo?
no, they can ask questions. They can be involved in that. It's 1 hour. Now you can choose Tuesday one week, Wednesday the next week.
Got it.
And then if you can't make it, we actually record the information but differently.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
So you can access it anytime you want.
Yeah.
And then once a month on the Friday, at the very end of the
Yeah.
month, you get an Ask Therese Anything session where you bring the things that you didn't get to actually go live and ask questions live. You can ask me then.
Okay.
So
How much would it cost for this course roughly? Can you talk about that?
So if you're a solo, it's $3,300 for the entire year.
Mm-hmm.
But as I said, it's broken down in a way that's highly doable for you.
Yep.
And the other great advantage of it is
What do you mean if you're solo as opposed to
so
what?
if
Sorry.
you're a solo leader in your business,
Why does it matter from the cost point of view whether you have 5
Because-
people in a business or not?
we work with some organizations where this is the first time the organization has ever done leadership development, but they might actually have 12 leaders. So I
Oh,
actually,
multiple people coming on a course. I'm sorry, that's another question.
Yeah.
Of course, makes sense.
so then I
Yeah, I
reduce
misunderstood what
price.
you meant.
Yeah.
So you know what I was going to ask? What do you think it would cost if you were to do custom course for someone like that, as opposed to because I can see 3,300 is nothing, it's peanuts.
It's nothing.
I can see why you'd need multiple people to be in that course for you guys to be able to run it.
But I want it to be available for small business owners.
Yeah,
So
that's
yeah.
the problem. I know what you mean. They won't afford it if it's custom. It's going to be $20,000 or something because you're building it for them or whatever. Then the problem becomes the money. They can't afford it.
They can't afford
That's
it.
the challenge. Yeah, because what I'm thinking is, you know, Therese, I'm sure you do that a lot. Sometimes you want to go for a walk to discuss things like that are sort of require real transformations in your brain.
Yeah.
You're more comfortable when you're walking. Because you're feeling you're exercising, whatever, all kind of chemistry goes up in our
And
brain.
you've
It's
got your
positive.
puppy to walk, and I've got my puppy to walk, and we walk along the beach and we
Right.
talk for hours.
Yeah, but that would be more of a custom. That's going to be more expensive, isn't it? Because even if you're on the phone with me, Zoom, whatever, but you've got, your earplug wherever you're walking and you're talking to me. But the problem with that is going to be more expensive. I know what you mean. I don't know what else you can do than offering
So-
2 days, 2 options in a week. And yeah, I know what you mean.
For larger organizations, we are in discussion right now with building something that, as the first part of it, we actually build in their values, their direction, so that it's customized for their team.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's absolutely something that we
that
can
would
do.
be different. When they can spend a bit more money, you can provide more custom I know what you mean. I can't see what else you can do.
Mm.
Offering 2 slots from research you found for small business owners
Yeah.
are the best times. And you're saying, look, choose one of them, make it work.
Mm.
They can't make that investment 1 hour a week. Come on, they're not serious
Yes.
about it.
So
You know what? You're amazing. I really appreciate you. You've
thank
opened
you.
my eyes on a lot of things. And you know what? I I genuinely say this, learning about your experience and tiny little bit, hardly one per million. You have so much to offer.
Thank you.
Really amazing. The whole experience in Japan and Germany and whatever else at a young age and stuff like that. Wow. I really appreciate you. I feel I'm a better person from meeting you and learning about your experience. And thank you very much. And we'll leave it at this.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Bye
It's
for now.